Chapter 2043. Could that young lady be the legendary number 1 on the International Secret Agent ranking? The one who shakes the world with her name, slaying God? The middle-aged man standing next to Song Fan spoke in a voice that everyone present could hear clearly. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present was shocked. What? The number 1 on the International Secret Agent ranking? Emo Lianhua's eyes were wide open as she stared at Yun Jian in disbelief. She did not know what the number 1 on the International Secret Agent ranking signified. However, Emo Lianhua, Song Yu, Emo Bufan and everyone else did not see wrongly. The middle-aged man standing next to Song Fan gulped when he heard the word slaying God. Just the mention of that name was enough to make him tremble in fear. After he said the word slaying God, he took 2 big steps back because he suspected that Yun Jian was that person. He hid himself in a corner before he dared to say the 2 words that sent chills down his spine. Uncle Zhang. What did you say? Song Yu's expression changed when he heard what the middle-aged man said. He looked at the middle-aged man and asked loudly in front of everyone. The middle-aged man whom Song Yu called Uncle Zhang was the one who had pointed out Yun Jian's identity in front of everyone. Uncle Zhang was an old friend of Song Yu's father, Song Fan. At the same time, he was also a big shot in the black market. Usually, when Song Yu was by Song Fan's side, he always saw this Uncle Zhang as solemn and dignified. Even if someone greeted him, Uncle Zhang was a calm and composed person who would only nod slightly. However, he saw something in Uncle Zhang's expression just now. Song Yu saw Uncle Zhang, who had always been calm and composed, show a frightened expression just now. That was enough to prove that the number 1 on the International Secret Agent ranking, slaying God, was a terrifying existence. Yun Jian, who was a distance away, did not expect anyone to recognize Shenji's saber. Shenji's saber had been with her for more than 10 years. Moreover, the saber was engraved with her unique Ji character, which could not be imitated by outsiders. Seeing the saber was like seeing the number 2 assassin on the International Assassin ranking, Shenji. One had to know one thing. The 3 survivors from Anhun back then, Slaying God, Shenji, and Mad Dragon, were all top figures on the International Secret Agent Assassin chart. Yun Jian aside, Shenji was ranked 2nd on the assassin ranking. Her strength was shocking, and her completion rate of missions was second only to Yun Jian. She was also an existence that made people panic just by hearing her name. Mad Dragon, ranked 3rd on the International Secret Service rankings, codenamed God of War. Mad Dragon was famous for his strength. He wasn't much weaker than Yun Jian and Shenji. But in terms of speed, Yun Jian was better than him. And it was because of this that Mad Dragon would never be able to surpass Yun Jian. There was no doubt that the 3 men who had survived in Hun were the top assassins on the International Secret Agent ranking list. This was also the reason why Hun had such an important position in this world. What? Old Zhang, what did you say? Shenji, the number 2 assassin in the world? Slaying God, the number 1 on the International Secret Agent ranking. How is this possible? They're so young. How could they be such terrifying figures? Even Song Fan revealed a frightened and surprised expression in front of everyone. That's impossible, but that saber. Uncle Zhang immediately shook his head, refuting Yun Jian and Shenji's terrifying identities in front of everyone. But he couldn't figure it out. If Shenji wasn't the legendary number 2 assassin on the assassin ranking list, then why? Why would she have this saber? Shenji saw Song Fan, Uncle Zhang, and the rest's terrified expressions, as well as the surrounding students' pale faces. She laughed out loud, and when she saw that everyone's expressions became even more panicked, she found it amusing and admitted her identity in front of everyone. Ha ha ha, since you've seen it, I won't hide it from you. That's right, I am a... Chapter 2044. I'm Shenji, number 2 on the assassin ranking. However, before Shenji could finish his sentence, Yun Jian, who had walked up from behind Shenji, elbowed Shenji's waist. With this retort, Shenji swallowed back the words he had been about to spit out. 006 you. If she's Shenji, number 2 on the International Assassin ranking, she would have been stupid enough to be killed. Otherwise, why would she be weaker than me? Yun Jian continued Shenji's words and walked up to the crowd. Then Yunjian's eyes flashed sharply. She pursed her red lips and continued in front of the crowd. Her name is Shinji, but it's just a coincidence. Or do you believe that I, who just turned 18, am the number one on the international secret agent ranking, slaying God? Yunjian's words calmed the rowdy crowd down completely. That was right, she was only 18. Although the crowd did not know slaying God's age, she should be in her 30s or 40s to have such a battle record. Moreover, how could slaying God, who was number one on the international secret agent ranking, be a woman? No matter what, she should be a strong man, right? If that was the case, it was impossible for Shinji to be number 2 on the international assassin ranking. Song Fan, Uncle Zhang, and everyone around them heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. The president of our martial arts club is amazing. This is the glory of our martial arts club. Long live the president. Mo Bufan saw that the opportunity was ripe and shouted at Yunjian. From now on, our martial arts club will follow President Yunjian to our deaths. Mo Bufan's shout made the members of the martial arts club around them lift their heads proudly and shout. In a short while, the martial arts club's shouts echoed throughout the hall. We will follow President Yunjian to our deaths. We will follow President Yunjian to our deaths. Perhaps Yunjian's ability was too shocking, but the martial arts club was now proud of Yunjian. Such a grand occasion was something that had never happened before. Seeing this, everyone present was shocked by the scene. Indeed, Yunjian was definitely not an international secret agent. Otherwise, why would she be here? This was simply impossible. However, it was definitely not easy for a girl to subdue everyone in the martial arts club and make so many people accept her wholeheartedly. Shinji blinked. In the end, he didn't say anything. He picked up his long knife and left. Since 006 doesn't want to expose her identity, she naturally has to give this face. It seemed that she, Shinji, wasn't qualified. However, she would never give up. Unless she died. Otherwise, she would definitely surpass 006. Even if she couldn't surpass him, she would make it her life's goal. She would never stop improving her strength. This was a tacit understanding between Yunjian and Shinji. No one could be missing. Because the two of them, ever since Yunjian was 5 years old in her previous life, they had regarded each other as mortal enemies. With the intention of surpassing each other, they progressed together and became the top existence that countless people could not touch. Let's work together and grow together. On the other side, Gu Nianji, who had been dragged into her hotel room by Li Nong, refused to go in no matter what. In the end, Li Nong simply carried her in horizontally. Why are you letting go of me? Don't think you can bully me just because you're a god. Sister Xiaoxin will tell my sister Jian to deal with you. You didn't do what you promised me. Gu Nianji struggled, but Li Nong threw her face down onto the bed. By then, the door was already closed. However, she felt a pair of perverted hands caressing and even scratching her buttocks from behind her waist. Li Nong's calm but infuriating voice came from behind Gu Nianji. It was not asking for Gu Nianji's permission but directly taking action. Acting first and reporting later. You're from myriad continents. It's not easy to stay in deity continent. For your safety, I'll protect you as long as you let me touch you again. A. Chapter 2045. As he said that, Li Nong grabbed another handful in a righteous manner. Don't grab me again, I'm begging you. I'm begging you, please. Gu Nianji was pressed against the bed with her stomach facing down. Li Nong was using his slender right leg to block her legs, and his hands continued to grab her. Pervert. Shameless. I still have to get married in the future. How can I get married like this? You pervert. Gu Nianji was being ravaged. Because her back was facing the ceiling, her legs were pinned down. Gu Nianji raised her head and tried to use the strength of her shoulders to arch up. But she was no match for Li Nong. Although they were on Earth and couldn't use the spiritual power of the mainland, Li Nong was much stronger than Gu Nianji. It was clear that Li Nong didn't completely rely on spiritual power on the divine continent. He also added a lot of requirements for physique and physical fitness. So Gu Nianji was naturally no match for him. Gu Nianji shouted, I still have to get married in the future. How can I get married like this? Li Nong's hand, which had been on Gu Nianji's butt, froze. Li Nong froze. Get married? She still had to get married? Gu Nianji turned her head and saw that Li Nong froze when he heard what she said. She gathered her strength and raised her head to push Li Nong away forcefully. Then she quickly stood up and turned around to glare fiercely at Li Nong before running out the door. Just as she ran out the door, Li Nong caught her hand again. What are you doing? I'm starving. I'm going to eat. Gu Nianji felt wronged when she said this. She hadn't even eaten dinner, and this pervert was touching her all over. I'll take you to eat. Li Nong didn't mess around this time. He grabbed Gu Nianji's hand and took her downstairs to eat like a boy in love. On Yunjian's end, after Shinji left, everything seemed to return to its original calm. After that, nothing major happened. However, everyone still stuck to their original plan and played a round of balloon shooting, darts, and other games. Yunjian didn't participate. Instead, she stood beside Zhu Huili and taught her how to shoot and throw darts. Yunjian, you also know how to shoot and throw darts. At this moment, Mo Bufan could no longer use the word worship to describe his reverence towards Yunjian. He moved to Yunjian's side and spoke with great respect. This was an affirmative statement. He didn't suspect that Yunjian knew how to play games like guns and darts. Yunjian merely pursed her lips indifferently. With Yunjian's guidance, Zhu Huili managed to hit a medium-sized doll. Out of a dozen shots, he only missed once. Zhu Huili had never hit so many balloons before. When he got the big doll, Zhu Huili jumped excitedly and hugged Yunjian's neck. He was so excited that he couldn't control himself. In the end, until the end of the party, nothing else happened that was worth mentioning. Yunjian and Mo Bufan left in the opposite direction. Songyu was staring fixedly at Yunjian's slender figure, unable to return to his senses for a long time. Mo Lianhua stood to the side and watched as Songyu stared fixedly at Yunjian. She couldn't help but feel angry. Songyu didn't give up his pursuit of Yunjian. Mo Lianhua didn't dare to stop Songyu now, but she had the urge to kill Yunjian. Both of them had their own ulterior motives. About half a month had passed since that day's party. On this day, Mo Bufan, as the vice president of the martial arts club, received news that Jiangqing City would hold a martial arts competition soon. Anyone who was a fan of martial arts could sign up. Because it wasn't a competition sponsored by the school, but an event organized by Jiangqing City, the school's martial arts club had the freedom to participate. However, Mo Bufan would lead everyone to participate in this martial arts competition every year. Moreover, the opponents of their martial arts club weren't people from society. They were martial arts clubs from other schools. At this time, Yunjian was standing in the martial arts club and speaking to the members. On the eve of the martial arts competition, I will strengthen your training these days. Chapter 2046. In the past, Mo Bufan would lead the members of the martial arts club to strengthen their training whenever the competition was about to begin. However, the person leading the martial arts club this year was not Mo Bufan, but Yunjian. Yunjian's words were echoed by most of the members of the martial arts club. For the competition, we're not afraid of any hardship or exhaustion. President, please increase the difficulty of our training. That's right. This time, we must trample the members of the martial arts club from Eastern University under our feet. Haha. With the president around, there won't be a problem. Last year, the martial arts club from Eastern University won first place, the Green Bull Gang from Dragon City University won second place, and we're only third. Now that the president of the Green Bull Gang has been killed by the president, as long as we defeat the martial arts club from Eastern University, the first place will belong to us. After Yunjian finished speaking, the members of the martial arts club were in high spirits. The atmosphere at the scene was soon hyped up. Everyone in the martial arts club had witnessed Yunjian's skills and strength. At that time, their admiration and trust for Yunjian had been deeply ingrained in the hearts of the members of the martial arts club. I'll sign up for the martial arts competition tomorrow. In addition, the martial arts club that signs up for this year's competition needs to provide a club name. Everyone, think about what kind of club name our martial arts club should provide. At that time, Mo Buffon held a martial arts competition form in his hand and spoke to the crowd. How about the Invincible Gang? Isn't this name loud enough? Immediately, a boy mischievously said, "Pfft, Invincible Gang? What's the difference between that and the Green Bull Gang? Our martial arts club can't have such a tacky name. It's degrading our status." The members of the martial arts club discussed animatedly. Why don't we ask the president to help us come up with a name? Zhou Huntao blinked and looked at Yin Jian. Yes, let the president do it. The president is the spiritual pillar of our club now. That's right. Immediately someone agreed with Zhou Huntao. At that time, Yin Jian, who was surrounded by everyone, blinked her eyes. Are you sure you want me to come up with a name? Seeing this, Yin raised her eyebrows slightly and said, Yes. President, you're the best. A boy named Zhou Dun looked at Yin Jian and shouted. Zhou Dun was the fattest boy in the martial arts club. His body was like a meatball, and he walked unsteadily. He was a typical fat guy. As soon as Zhou Dun finished speaking, no one had any objections. Thus, everyone handed the name of the martial arts club to Yin Jian. Bang! At this moment, the mysterious door outside the martial arts club was kicked open. The person walked in angrily. After taking a few things from the martial arts club, she left angrily. Senior Huiling? Senior Sister Huiling is back. Where are you going, Senior Huiling? The person who returned was Kai Huiling. Kai Huiling was the third-year senior Yin Jian, had pushed Zhu Huili when she first entered the university. Later, Yin Jian had stepped on her. Kai Huiling entered the martial arts society because of Mo Buffon. Since she was stepped on by Yin Jian in public last time, Kai Huiling had not appeared in school or the martial arts club for a long time. Kai Huiling, who appeared at that time, glared at Yin Jian fiercely and said to everyone, I want to leave the club. This kind of person is the president of our martial arts club. Sooner or later, she will be finished. Mo Buffon, you will regret it. Kai Huiling closed her eyes and shouted angrily at Mo Buffon. Then she turned around and ran away. She was probably still expecting Mo Buffon to chase her back. Many girls who still stayed in the martial arts club had a good relationship with Kai Huiling. But at that time, when they saw Kai Huiling run out after saying those words to Yin Jian, no one chased after her. Senior Sister Huiling is really too much this time. Yes, our new president is really amazing. Anyway, this time, I will definitely stand on our new president's side. After Kai Huiling left, the girls in the martial arts club still turned to Yin Jian's side. This was Yin Jian's charm. At that time, Yin Jian had already become the god in the eyes of the boys and girls in the martial arts club without her saying anything. Shrine. Just when everyone was talking about what Kai Huiling said before she ran away, Yin Jian suddenly raised her red lips and said in public, Is this the name of our martial arts club? Mo Buffon heard it and asked Yin Jian on behalf of everyone. However, Yin Jian, who was standing in front of everyone, nodded. The slightly raised red arc deepened again. She pursed her lips and explained in public why the club was named Shrine. The god of Jiangqing, the only club. Therefore Shrine. A. Chapter 2047. The god of Rivertown, the only club. The god of Rivertown belonged to the martial arts club led by Yin Jian. The words that came out of Yin Jian's mouth made everyone present unable to calm down. Shrine. This was a name that did not allow for defeat. Whether it was in the martial arts club or in other fields, as long as the shrine was led by Yin Jian, then it was not allowed to fail. First place belonged to none other than them. It took a long time for everyone to recover from the shock of Yin Jian's words. At that time, they all felt sluggish for a moment. These two words gave everyone a feeling of supremacy and supremacy. I, the unique and righteous. Good. Good name. Our martial arts club will be called Shrine in the future. The god of Rivertown, the only club. These 8 words will be the slogan of our shrine. After Mo Buffon heard this, there was a rush of excitement in his heart. In front of everyone, he repeated the name that Yin Jian had given, and the meaning behind it. At that time, after hearing Mo Buffon's words, everyone's heart was boiling with excitement. Okay. Listen to the president. Whatever the president says. Everyone agreed unanimously. Unknowingly, everyone in the martial arts club had already regarded Yunjian as the core. The martial arts club's competition is about 1.5 months later. Now that there is still 1.5 months for us to train, we must strengthen our training progress. In this 1.5 months, as long as you are free, come to the martial arts club. Work hard and think about the competition. If you get first place in the competition, there will be a reward of 30,000 yuan. If you can get this reward, it will be divided equally among everyone. So everyone work hard for 1.5 months. Come on. Mo Buffon encouraged everyone for a while. In fact, Mo Buffon's family was so rich that it was naturally impossible for them to lack this 30,000 yuan. On the contrary, this martial arts club could be set up by Mo Buffon himself. Otherwise, the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China did not have any extra space to provide for the martial arts club. Mo Buffon really liked martial arts. There is a reward? Haha. My motivation is here again. The first place of this martial arts competition belongs to our shrine. Sure enough, when they heard that there was a reward, everyone's fighting spirit became stronger. In the next few days, the members of the martial arts club really worked hard. Whatever Yunjian said, they did it. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. At the end of November, the weather had become very cold. In places like Jiang City where winter came earlier, many students had already put on thick cotton-padded jackets. At the end of the month, the school arranged exams. Yunjian left the exam hall early after she was done with her question. University was different from junior high and high school. If you left after you finished your paper, the teacher wouldn't say anything. At most, the teacher would ask you if you were sure you wanted to hand in your paper. She was wearing a light blue down jacket. It was an ordinary piece of clothing, but it accentuated her figure. At the same time, Yunjian shoved her phone in both her hands into her pockets as she made her way to the university gate. He had just sent her a message. He was waiting for her at the entrance of the university. Yunjian was stopped by Song Yu, who had just come from the University of the East, when Yunjian walked out of the gate. Yunjian. As he spoke, Song Yu ran to Yunjian with a rose in each hand. Ever since the gathering, Song Yu had been sending roses to Yunjian every day without missing a single day. However, Yunjian never paid attention to it, let alone accepted it. Mo Lianhua watched Song Yu run towards Yunjian. She was in a daze and was supported by Pan Qian. This little b*tch. She doesn't accompany her rich, short, and fat boyfriend. She seduces Mr. Song every day. She's too timing. Disgusting. Pan Qian said angrily after supporting Mo Lianhua. However, just as Pan Qian finished speaking, she suddenly saw Song Yu happily walk to Yunjian's side. But then, a handsome man arrived in front of Yunjian before Song Yu. After that, the handsome man wrapped his arm around Yunjian's slim waist and shot a murderous glance at Song Yu, who was holding a bouquet of roses in his hand and looked pathetic in comparison to him. Such a handsome man. He hugged Yunjian's slender waist in front of everyone. Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian were drooling. Who was he? How could there be such a handsome man in this world? Who are you? Why are you hugging my woman? Song Yu saw Ce suddenly appear. He looked at Yunjian angrily and shouted at Ce. He looked as if he had already won Yunjian's heart. Your woman. Ce frowned when he heard it. When did my wife become your woman? Ce hugged Yunjian's slender waist tighter. Wife? Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian, who were far away, exclaimed in shock. No, that's impossible. Are you Yunjian's short, fat boyfriend? Song Yu shook his head in disbelief. He was short, fat, and fat? Ce's handsome brows creased slightly. Before Song Yu could react, Ce was already smiling. After showing off his and Xiao Jian's marriage certificate in country R, Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and Pan Qian were shocked. Ce took out the pregnancy test he had taken from the hospital last time. There was an error on the pregnancy test, but the words "pregnancy confirmed" were still there. Ce held the pregnancy test between his slender fingers and showed it to Song Yu, Mo Lianhua, and Pan Qian. Then, while Song Yu and Pan Qian looked like they had eaten **T, Ce continued his lie that was so thick-skinned that even a gun could not penetrate. Xiao Jian is already pregnant with my child. A. Chapter 2048. Yin Jian glanced at the pregnancy test slip in Si Yi's hand and blushed. She did not expect him to hide the paper. Yin Jian had a bad feeling that this piece of paper might very well replace the country or marriage certificate. No, that's impossible. This has to be fake. It's fake. Song Yu shook his head as he held the rose in his hand. Yin Jian, I made a love circle with 99 roses for you the last time. And sent you roses every day for so many days. I can swear to the heavens that I love you. How can you not understand my love for you? Song Yu looked at Yin Jian as if Yin Jian had betrayed him and gotten together with Si Yi. Yin Jian's lips curled into a scornful smirk. The man had even placed a love circle with 99 roses for Xiao Jian? Si Yi, who was not that jealous just now, was instantly envious. Si Yi had no intention of killing Song Yu just now, but Si Yi's brows were furrowed as a murderous intent spread from Si Yi. Song Yu, Lianhua, and Pan Qian could not help feeling a chill run down their spines. Before Si Yi could make a move, Yin Jian had already wrapped her arms around Si Yi's chest. Her head could only reach Si Yi's chin as Yin Jian pressed the side of her face against Si Yi's chest. The scene was so loving that Song Yu could not take his eyes off it. That was not all. Yin Jian did it in front of Song Yu, Lianhua, and Pan Qian, who had initially said that Si Yi was a short, chubby rich kid and was now dumbfounded. She tiptoed and raised her hand to grab Si Yi's collar like a kitten scratching an itch, causing Si Yi to bend down. She, on the other hand, brought her red lips to Si Yi's and offered a kiss in front of everyone. After a light peck, Yin Jian pressed the side of her face against Si Yi's chest again. After the action that was more intimate than a couple's, Yin Jian cooperated with Si Yi and said something that nearly angered the trio. We're already married. Love is a matter between husband and wife. It's reasonable even if I'm pregnant. What's wrong with that? Yin Jian spoke smoothly. Si Yi, who could feel Yin Jian's face pressing against his chest, broke into a smile when he heard her words. As Xiao Jian knew how to say something so touching too. The words love between a man and a woman, matters between husband and wife, and pregnancy, struck Song Yu's heart like a thunderclap. Lianhua had long forgotten that Song Yu was pursuing Yin Jian. She kept her eyes on Si Yi, unable to believe that this man who was more handsome than any man who walked out of a comic was Yin Jian's boyfriend. The legendary short and fat man. Pan Qian was rooted to the spot in shock as well. Could someone tell her why Yin Jian's boyfriend was so handsome? No, handsome was not even the word to describe him. He was so handsome that it was impossible to find a second person like him in this world. His handsome face that looked like it was sculpted with chiseled features was flawless. When he stood next to Yin Jian, one was handsome while the other was as beautiful as jade. There was no flaw to pick out. Lianhua and Pan Qian were envious of the scene. Even so, there's no one more compatible than us in this world. Yin Jian, you have to be mine. Look, you're from the bloody world too. So am I. My dad's the boss of River City's top mafia group. Come with me, I won't despise you. Even if you're pregnant with someone else's child, you just have to abort it. Even after listening to Shen Ji's words and knowing this now, Song Yu refused to let go. As he spoke, Song Yu reached out to grab Yin Jian's wrist. However, before his hand could touch Yin Jian, he was sent flying more than 10 meters away with a kick. The one who did it was undoubtedly Si Yi. After sending Song Yu flying more than 10 meters away with a kick, Si Yi's murderous intent flared. He glared coldly at Song Yu, who was about to spit blood, and warned him icily. Song Yu, who had fallen to the ground, was so shocked that his heart was pounding. How dare you covet my woman? The top mafia group in River City, huh? Very well. Your father's gang is now in Hun Group's must-kill list. Chapter 2049. Si Yi's words were like the summons of the King of Hell. His voice reached Song Yu, Lianhua, and Pan Qian's ears. Lianhua and Pan Qian almost screamed when they saw Si Yi's kick. So handsome. They had never seen a man as handsome as Si Yi in their lives. When Song Yu was sent flying with a kick just now, Si Yi had done it with half of his arm around Yin Jian. Si Yi's words almost made Lianhua and Pan Qian scream like love-struck girls. But in the end they held it in. Mo Lianhua originally wanted to kill Yun Jian because of Song Yu's confession to Yun Jian. But now, Mo Lianhua didn't even want to look at Song Yu. If possible, she wanted to trade with Yun Jian. However, unlike Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian, although Song Yu didn't participate in the matters of his father's gang, he had heard a lot about it from his father. In the underworld, the last people to provoke weren't international mafia bosses, nor were they international arms magnates. Compared to these two organizations, all the international mafia bosses and international arms magnates had to step aside. And these two organizations were an Hun organization and Kosha mercenaries. Anyone who provoked these two forces would be standing directly on top of a coffin, separated from the Grim Reaper by a distance of 0 meters. Song Yu was no stranger to an Hun organization's must-kill list. Song Yu's father, Song Fan, had warned Song Yu in a very strict manner that anyone who was listed on an Hun organization's must-kill list would become a wanted criminal of an Hun organization. In the future, as long as an Hun organization's assassins or secret agents saw them, they would directly eliminate the wanted person or organization with a bounty. One had to know that an Hun organization's assassins and secret agents had the ability to wipe out a gang. When Song Yu first heard this, he was so scared that his face turned green and purple. He even swore that he would never provoke an Hun organization in his life. But what did he just hear? He actually heard CE say that his father's gang was already listed on an Hun organization's must-kill list. My Hun organization? CE's words made Song Yu's eyes widen. Why you're from the Hun organization? Song Yu was sent flying more than 10 meters away. At this moment, he didn't have time to get angry, nor did he have time to cover the place where he was hurt. He stared at CE with wide eyes. Although Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian didn't know what was going on when they saw how fearful Song Yu was of the Hun organization, they were even more mesmerized by CE's handsomeness. At that moment, Mo's son, who was standing not far away, walked over from the side. Young master, the #1 gang in Rivertown has been added to the must-kill list. Mo's son did as he was told when he heard CE's words. CE shifted her gaze from Song Yu to Yun Jian. Then, in front of Song Yu and the others, he took Yun Jian's small hand and turned to leave. Song Yu was completely paralyzed on the ground. Mo Lianhua and Pan Qian wanted to chase after him, but they were frightened by Mo Sen's fierce eyes. At the same time, CE was holding Yun Jian's hand as they walked down the street. Xiao Jian, why are your hands so cold? CE asked softly as he felt Yun Jian's icy hands. Yun Jian adjusted the light blue down jacket she was wearing and answered, I just finished my test paper in the classroom. She had been holding a pen when she was doing her test paper. Of course, her hands were cold in this wintry weather. CE frowned slightly at that, and pulled Yun Jian to a milk tea shop without another word to order a cup of milk tea for Yun Jian to warm her hands. Before the milk tea was ready, CE held Yun Jian's small hand in his large one to keep Yun Jian warm. The shop owner passed the milk tea to CE and quickly passed the hot milk tea to Yun Jian to warm up her cold hands. The shop owner could not help exclaiming at the sight. Young man, there aren't many college students who spoil their girlfriends like you. The shop owner thought that CE would be smug about how he spoiled his girlfriend, but instead, CE frowned and explained in annoyance. My girlfriend isn't my girlfriend. We're married. She's my wife. Chapter 2050. CE was upset when he heard the milk tea shop owner say that Yun Jian was only his girlfriend. When the milk tea shop owner heard CE's explanation, his expression froze for a moment. Then he immediately put on an I know everything attitude. He didn't believe that CE and Yun Jian were married. However, the shop owner believed that CE completely doted on Yun Jian. The weather was so cold that it felt like winter. The passers-by on the street didn't even want to take their hands out of their pockets. However, CE used his large palms to warm Yun Jian's icy cold hands. When the milk tea was ready, he immediately handed it to her. The shop owner was experienced and had a wife whom he loved deeply. He nodded with a smile. Although he believed that CE and Yun Jian's marriage was fake, he still nodded as though he believed it. He looked at Yun Jian and couldn't help but sigh. Miss, you have a husband who loves you deeply. Since you're a couple, then live well together. Hee hee, play when it's time to play, and study hard when it's time to study. The shop owner looked kindly at Yun Jian and Ce as he exhorted them. The shop owner thought that Yun Jian and Ce were both university students and that he was only in his 40s. However, his kind expression made him seem like an old man in his 50s or 60s who was carefully exhorting the younger generation. When Yun Jian heard the shop owner's words, she was stunned. However, her red lips curled up slightly. "You old thing, there's a mountain of customers behind us. You're going to make me busy. Hurry up and help us." The shop owner's wife was busy making the milk tea and fried chicken. She was too busy to handle everything. She gently pulled the shop owner's ear and yelled at him in a playful tone. After being yelled at by his in-laws, the shop owner happily waved goodbye to Yun Jian and Ce and went back to work. The lady boss was fierce to her husband, but when she saw Yun Jian and Ce, she nodded and smiled before continuing with her work. In this era, milk tea franchises were not popular yet. The business of this milk tea shop was very good, but the words on the shop sign indicated that the milk tea shop had not joined the Zhang family's husband and wife milk tea shop. After that, Ce didn't say anything. He pulled Yun Jian away and returned to his and Yun Jian's cozy room. Ce had bought a luxurious suite in Rivertown. Whenever he was free to come to Rivertown, Yun Jian would move out of her dormitory and stay there. In college, there were many girls who went out with their boyfriends at night. No one would know that Yun Jian was not in the dormitory. So softer. Yun Jian bit Ce's fleshless shoulder as Ce did the shameful thing to her. At the same time, both of them were staying in the luxurious suite that Ce bought to make it easier for him to meet Yun Jian. The orange light in the room shone down. It was dim but not cool. In spite of it, Yun Jian could see clearly what Ce was doing on top of her. Even when he was doing this kind of thing, his handsome face didn't have the slightest change in expression. If it were not for the fact that Ce was naked, Yun Jian would have thought that she was the only one who was doing something so perverted. Ce was so forceful that Yun Jian almost could not hold it in, and wanted to cry out, but she swallowed it back into her stomach. It was embarrassing enough to do something like this. If she cried out again, where would her dignity go? "Xiao Jian, cry out if you can't hold it in." Ce tightened his grip and arched his handsome face. Yun Jian pressed her face against his shoulder, too shy to look at him. "Xiao Jian, you don't have to hold it in front of me. Be good and cry out," Ce said, the curve of his handsome face deepening. Then he bit Yun Jian's ear. Yun Jian went limp and numb. Unable to hold it in any longer, she moaned shyly. Chapter 2051. Yun Jian, who had been forced to scream by Ce, couldn't hold it in anymore. Of course, this was the result of Ce's hard work. At that time, it had been more than 20 days since Li Nong had promised to take Gu Nianji to the Divine Continent. After Li Nong had taken Gu Nianji to a small restaurant to eat, he hadn't done anything else. He hadn't taken Gu Nianji to the Divine Continent. Of course, it wasn't that he had broken his promise, but that Li Nong had just arrived on Earth and didn't plan to go back yet. But at that moment, Gu Nianji angrily knocked on Li Nong's door. Li Nong, who was dressed in formal clothes, opened the door. After seeing Gu Nianji standing behind the door without anyone noticing, Li Nong's eyes lit up slightly. "Hey kid, where are you playing with your sister? It's been almost a month. Why haven't you taken me to the Divine Continent? Let me tell you, if you don't take me to the Divine Continent, I'll follow you all the time in the future and won't leave. I'll guard you until you take me to the Divine Continent. Otherwise, don't even think about walking out of this door." Gu Nianji straightened her body and spread her legs and hands like a spider. She had an expression that said, "If you don't promise me, I won't leave. Are you sure you'll follow me wherever I go?" Li Nong raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard Gu Nianji's words. He suddenly looked down and met Gu Nianji's eyes. A sly and deep smile appeared on his handsome face. When Gu Nianji saw this sly and deep smile, she took a deep breath. Then she looked at Li Nong again. Why did she feel that something was wrong? However, Gu Nianji didn't think too much about it. She nodded at Li Nong, then laughed and stretched out her hand. Yes, I'll follow you wherever you go. I'll annoy you to death. You pervert, you're still going back on your word. Then let's go." Li Nong didn't wait for Gu Nianji to finish speaking. He grabbed Gunyanji's wrist and closed the door of his hotel room. He dragged Gunyanji out of the hotel. Hey, what are you doing? Why are you taking me out? Gunyanji tried to break free from Li Nong's grip, but Li Nong took her and ran. Gunyanji wasn't like this before. At that time, Gunyanji kept calling herself sister because she wanted to pretend to be a big brother in front of Li Nong. Let me tell you, it doesn't matter where you take me. I won't listen to you. In order to show her determination, Gunyanji patted her chest and said to Li Nong, "Let's eat." Li Nong's lips curved into a smile when he heard Gunyanji's solemn vow. "Aren't you going?" he added. Gunyanji gulped when she heard the word eat. She was about to say no, but she changed her mind. "Even after eating, I won't forgive you. You have to take me to the divine continent." "Okay," Li Nong replied quickly this time. After he finished speaking, he pulled Gunyanji towards the restaurant. Gunyanji, who was so focused on eating, didn't realize that someone was holding her hand and didn't let go the whole way. At the same time, after they were done, Ce carried Yunjian, who was limp and weak, into the bathroom to wash her. At first, Ce really did wash Yunjian carefully for her. "I'll get up first. Take your time." Yunjian wanted to get up first after soaking in the bathtub for so long. Who knew that just as Yunjian stood up, Ce, who scanned the beautiful scenery around them, knew to pin Yunjian down in the bathtub. "Xiaojian, you're so beautiful." Ce scanned Yunjian without any obstacles. What the gaze meant was obvious. Yunjian could tell at a glance after being with Ce for so long. The 666 days of the divine spring surfaced in Yunjian's mind. Don't do it here." Yunjian blushed shyly, revealing her girlish face that she only showed in front of him. "Xiaojian, I can't wait any longer." Ce's lips curved before he pushed her legs apart and went on a rampage in the water. Chapter 2052. Like a small boat gently brushing against the surface of the water, the two of them hugged each other endlessly. The night was still long. The room was filled with romance. Ce would visit Yunjian several times a month. Although Ce didn't visit her often during the first 2 months when she returned to Earth, Ce had become a habit. She would visit Yunjian 3 times a month and stay for 2 days each time. Of course, Ce would usually visit Yunjian during the weekend. After 2 days, Yunjian would go back to her dormitory. Zhu Huili was already used to Yunjian moving out for 2 days whenever Ce came. Of course, as long as Yunjian went back to her dormitory, Zhu Huili would go with Yunjian as usual. That afternoon, it was almost time for class. Yunjian and Zhu Huili went to the classroom first. Seeing Yunjian and Zhu Huili leave the dormitory, her roommate Shi Xiujuan went up to Miao Li and asked, "Miao Li, did you ask Yunjian to go with you on purpose during the last gathering?" Miao Li's eyes flickered when she heard Shi Xiujuan mention this. Although Miao Li and Shi Xiujuan were good friends, Miao Li didn't want Shi Xiujuan to know about this. Miao Li had secretly handed over the information to Song Yu behind everyone's back. "What? When did I do that?" Miao Li pretended not to know. "Tisk, stop pretending. You didn't even tell me, your good friend." "What do you mean? I just found 10,000 yuan in your bag." "That's 10,000 yuan. If Song Yu didn't ask you to give it to him, could it be your own money?" "I know how much money your family has," Shi Xiujuan said with some dissatisfaction. "Xiujuan, I didn't hide it from you on purpose. Song Yu forbade me from telling anyone else. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given me so much." Miao Li realized that her lie was exposed. She rolled her eyes and quickly thought of an excuse to cover up her lie. "Well, I'm your friend. I'm happy for you." Shi Xiujuan was fooled. Miao Li and Shi Xiujuan didn't know that Yunjian was standing outside the dormitory. The soundproofing effect of the dormitory was quite good. The people inside the door usually couldn't hear the conversations of the people outside, and the people outside usually couldn't hear the conversations of the people inside the dormitory. But at that time, Yunjian heard the conversation between Miao Li and Shi Xiujuan clearly. Yunjian's deep eyes flickered slightly. A trace of coldness flashed across the corner of her mouth and disappeared without a trace in an instant. Seeing that Zhu Huili didn't notice her and stopped walking, Yunjian followed in 2 or 3 steps, as if she didn't notice anything. After the scheduled classes in the afternoon, the students all left the classroom. The head teacher, who hadn't appeared for a month, finally showed up. At this time, most of the students in the classroom had just left. A few were still in the classroom. Miss Yu, the head teacher who hadn't appeared for a long time, first waved at Yun Jian, and then walked over with a smile. "You're Yun Jian, right?" Miss Yu was a female teacher in her 40s. She was about 1.55 meters tall. She wasn't tall, but she was quite well proportioned. It was obvious that she was married and had a child. Yun Jian nodded and said calmly, "Yes." Seeing this, Miss Yu walked up to Yun Jian with a smile. In front of some of the students in the classroom, she directly praised Yun Jian. "You got first place in the freshman examination this time. Especially your English essay. Even our English professor was full of praise after reading it." Miss Yu praised her first. It should be known that ordinary students would have laughed happily after hearing the teacher's praise. They would be as happy as kindergartners who had received lollipops. However, Yun Jian in front of her seemed to have expected this result. She replied calmly, "Yes." Miss Yu was stunned. She didn't expect Yun Jian to have such an attitude. However, after being stunned for a while, Miss Yu wasn't overly shocked. She didn't continue to praise her. Instead, she directly stated her purpose for coming. "Miss Yun Jian, the Normal University of Jiangqing next door wants to organize a volunteer teaching activity for college students in the countryside. Our school has a total of 4 places, and they will be given to the top student of each grade. This volunteer teaching activity is a rare opportunity. It lasts for a week. The purpose is to let college students experience some of the hardships of rural life and bring joy to the rural children during this week. Are you willing to represent our school to teach in the countryside for a week?" Chapter 2053. Volunteer teaching, as the name suggested, referred to supporting the education and teaching management of primary and secondary schools in rural areas in underdeveloped areas. In layman's terms, going to the countryside for volunteer teaching meant going to some backward villages where the economic conditions could not keep up. Teaching classes for the children in rural towns, so that they could also experience the life of some of the children with better economic conditions, or living in the city. Not to mention 2002, even now, there were still many children in poor areas who had problems going to school. They longed to go to school, but they did not have the money. Most of the children who were born in well-off families with better economic conditions hated learning. They wished that they could skip the 9 years of compulsory education in primary and secondary schools, so that they could enter society directly. It was a sharp contrast to the students in poor areas who had to climb several mountains to get to school from home. Every day, they had to walk for nearly 2 hours on the mountain road to get to school. The volunteer teaching that Miss Yu mentioned was a group of university students who went to rural areas in poor mountainous areas to help the children grow and learn. Of course, university students who went to rural areas usually did not stay for long. Seeing that Yun Jian did not respond after hearing what she said, Miss Yu tempted Yun Jian again in order to make her agree to participate. Although the environment in rural areas will be tough, it will only be for a week. You can just take it as a trip to another place. Moreover, if you do a good job, the school will reward you. What reward? Before Miss Yu could finish speaking, Yun Jian interrupted her. Indeed, Miss Yu really hoped that Yun Jian could go with her. This was because Yun Jian's participation represented her, Miss Yu's glory. After all, the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China was not the organizer. Therefore, only 4 people from each school would go. In each year, the 4 most outstanding students from the freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors would be qualified to go. The reward was actually just a cover. Teachers usually thought that since they had made such a request, the students would definitely not dare to go against the teacher directly. Therefore, they would have to be obedient. Miss Yu did not expect that Yun Jian would really ask about the reward. "You'll know when the reward is out. I've already registered your name. Pack up tonight and go to the gate of Jiangqing Normal University at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Someone will pick you up." Miss Yu directly said this. This was Miss Yu's true motive. Most of the teachers in the school thought that they were teachers and that they could make decisions for any student. What if you don't agree? Okay, the graduation certificate will be delayed or withheld. The students were forced to agree. If I want to apply for leave in the future, I don't need any reason. If you agree, I'll apply for it. Otherwise, you'll be the one applying for it. If you want to apply for it, you can go by yourself. Just as Miss Yu was about to leave after announcing this, Yin Jian's voice came from behind Miss Yu. Upon hearing this, Miss Yu was stunned. An ordinary female student actually dared to go against the decision of a teacher? This is not a third-rate university. Usually, students who wanted a graduation certificate would leave a good impression on their teachers. Miss Yu was stunned by Yin Jian's words. Then, she decisively took out her graduation certificate and said, I asked you to teach in the countryside because of your academic qualifications. If you don't even agree to do this little thing that the school asked you to do, then the school has the right to withhold the graduation certificate that you could have received directly after your senior year. A few naughty students in the previous cohort I taught had their graduation certificates confiscated. In the end, their parents used their connections and went to the school every day to beg for it. In the end, the school reluctantly gave it to the parents because they were pitiful and sincere. You're a girl. It's not easy for your parents. If you want to be thick-skinned and want your parents to go to the principal's office to beg for your graduation certificate, then it's up to you. Even a fool could tell that these 2 or 3 sentences that the teacher often said were threats. The meaning of these words was that without their graduation certificate, Yin Jian would not be able to survive for the rest of her life. She had thought that Yin Jian would be so frightened that she would apologize to her immediately after hearing these few sentences. However, what Miss Yu saw was Yin Jian's cold smile. She crossed her arms and waited for her to finish speaking before speaking to her in a flat and indifferent tone. Don't you know what kind of connections I used to get into the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China? Why would I care about a mere graduation certificate from your school? As long as you agree to the reward, I'll participate. I'm giving you face. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Otherwise, in Country Z, I can make sure that no school dares to accept a teacher like you. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try. Chapter 2054. Yin Jian was extremely disgusted with Miss Yu's threatening tone despite her appearance as a teacher. Therefore, she directly said such words to Miss Yu in front of Zhu Huili and the other students who had not yet left after class. Hearing Yin Jian's words, Zhu Huili was stunned. The other students who had not yet left were also shocked. When they reacted, the naughty boys who had not yet left gathered together and whispered to each other. Oh my God, Yin Jian from our class is fighting with the homeroom teacher. Too fierce. Even we don't dare to fight with the homeroom teacher easily. The homeroom teacher threatened her, but she actually threatened the homeroom teacher in return. TSK, this chick is beautiful with big breasts and a perky butt. I didn't expect her to be so arrogant. The president of a martial arts club is really different. The conversation of this group of boys was almost as soft as the buzzing of mosquitoes. Miss Yu did not hear it. Yin Jian's ears were good and she heard it clearly, but she ignored it. Miss Yu, who was standing opposite Yin Jian, was stunned by Yin Jian's words. Then Miss Yu suddenly remembered that during the last teachers' meeting, the principal asked her to stay alone after the other teachers left, and told her to take care of a classmate named Yin Jian in their class in the future. Miss Yu had already forgotten about it. But when she heard Yin Jian's words, her ears rang and she immediately recalled it. Could it be that Yin Jian had a terrifying background? Thinking of this, Miss Yu felt a lingering fear. If that was really the case, then she could not afford to offend her. Okay. Yin Jian, I promise you. I'm not that hard to talk to. If you had told me clearly earlier, I would have agreed directly. Then in the future, if you want to take leave from school, you don't need any reason. I will agree. But you have to tell me before you take leave. I have to know that you are safe. After all, the students were in school. If something happened to them, the teachers would also be responsible. If they couldn't find the culprit, the parents would make a fuss at the school. Yin Jian was not an unreasonable person. Naturally, she nodded. Sure. Then go to the gate of Jiangqing Normal University tomorrow morning at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Remember to bring your luggage. A teacher will stand there with the registration form to count the number of people. Just go and register. After that, follow the group. Seeing that Yun Jian agreed, Miss Yu told Yun Jian the plan. What he got in return was Yun Jian's emotionless reply, yes. The next day, 1 p.m. She appeared at the entrance of River City Normal University, not a minute too early nor too late. In the distance, there were more than 20 university students standing next to a teacher who was registering the number of students. From the looks of it, these 20-odd college students were obviously students from Jiangqing Normal University. This event was organized by Jiangqing Normal University. Therefore, the students from other universities only had 1 or 2 students. Some had at most 4 students, while the others only had 1 or 2 students. Yun Jian stepped forward. School name. The teacher who was registering the number of students glanced at Yun Jian and asked, Yun Jian from Jiangqing University of Electronic Science and Technology of China, she replied indifferently. The teacher who was registering the number of students immediately recorded the data. Oh my, it's actually the legendary person from Jiangqing University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. The one who took over the martial arts club as soon as she entered university. She even won the adoration of Mr. Song from Dongfang University. That's Yun Jian. Perhaps because Yun Jian's reputation was too well known. The girls from Jiangqing Normal University immediately recognized Yun Jian. Speaking of which, I heard that Mr. Song from Dongfang University next door didn't come to school a few days ago. It seems that something happened at home? The voices of the girls rose and fell one after another. No one had the intention to pay attention to Yun Jian. In response, Yun Jian signed up and put her hands in her trouser pockets. She didn't care. It's you. Are you also going to the countryside to teach? About 5 minutes after Yun Jian stood to the side, a girl who was dressed very prettily and gorgeously walked over. The girl's eyes lit up when she saw Yun Jian, as she came over to greet her in surprise. It was Liang Xiumin, the daughter of Gu Yunjian's childhood friend, Old Liang, who had brought his wife and daughter to go on a trip with Gu Junjian last time by the beach. The pampered young mistress. After the trip, Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin had taken the bus from Longmen City to Jiangcheng. Liang Xiumin had even invited Yun Jian to her school to play with a blushing face before she ran off after that. Yun Jian still remembered her. She was a girl who did not share the same heart and looked unfriendly on the outside, but had a pure heart. All in all, Yun Jian had a good impression of Liang Xiumin. Now that Liang Xiumin greeted her, Yun Jian could not help responding, A. Chapter 2055. That's great. My dad signed me up secretly, saying that he wanted to use this opportunity to let me experience what a poor life is like. I don't want that. Besides, I don't have any friends. Now that you're here, that's great. Liang Xiumin skipped 2 steps toward Yun Jian and hooked her arm around Yun Jian's like a naughty girl. Yun Jian did not avoid her, clearly not repulsed by Liang Xiumin. Liang Xiumin's father, Old Liang, had long realized that his daughter had been spoiled by him. She threw tantrums every day even though she was not a bad person. As a matter of fact, the school was organizing a volunteer education program in the countryside. Old Liang used his connections to get Liang Xiumin into the program. This time, he was determined to let his spoiled daughter experience what it was like to live in a poor mountainous area. When she returned in the future, he hoped that his daughter would be able to rein in her temper during this volunteer education program. Let's go sit over there. My legs are aching. After waiting for about 15 minutes, Liang Xiumin bent over and massaged her legs. She did not even have the strength to straighten her back. She looked up at Yun Jian and spoke. Yun Jian replied softly. Liang Xiumin then walked excitedly to the flower bed made of ceramic tiles and sat down on the tiles that were barely enough for one person to sit on. Yun Jian, on the other hand, stood aside without saying a word. After everyone had arrived, they each carried their travel backpacks filled with clothes and daily necessities and boarded the bus. The bus bumped along the way as it headed toward the destination. It took them 5 hours to arrive at the border of H province from Zhe province. Many people on the bus were already impatient. Why aren't we here yet? It's been 5 hours. Someone's grumbling came and went. Some people on the bus were already taking a nap. Yin Jian and Liang Xiumin sat in the same row. Liang Xiumin had already fallen asleep from fatigue. Yin Jian was resting with her eyes closed as well. At the back seat of the bus, a guy was telling a bunch of girls a story excitedly. He was even showing off in all sorts of ways. The girls were very interested as they cheered excitedly. Have you heard of the director of New Cruise? Heh, that's amazing. It's only been 3 years since she started New Cruise, and now it's already on the international stage. This boy's name was Shen Qingjiang. He didn't look very good, but he was tall and lean. He usually liked to sit among a group of girls and brag. Needless to say, there really were such people in this world. They weren't good-looking, but they were popular with girls just because of their mouths. This was probably referring to Shen Qingjiang. Wow, that's amazing. Immediately, a girl seemed to be shocked and responded with a sentence. Of course. My dad has connections in New Cruise. If you want, I'll sneak you over to New Cruise to have some fun. It's not the first time I've been there. Seeing that the girls were interested, Shen Qingjiang became more and more excited. Seeing that he was surrounded by familiar faces, Shen Qingjiang could not help but tell them about what he did in New Cruise the last time he was there. Let me tell you a secret. I stole a treasure from New Cruise the last time. Those staff members were so stupid that they didn't notice. Ha! Shen Qingjiang told them about how he stole a treasure from New Cruise, as if it was a glorious deed of chivalry. Once he said that, another group of ignorant girls exclaimed, New Cruise is an international company. Brother Jiang, you're amazing. You didn't even get caught stealing from New Cruise. You can go and be a master thief. You're so cool. That's right. That's amazing. I think even the international master thieves aren't as good as you. While the girls were chatting, Yin Jian, who had her eyes closed, suddenly opened them. No one noticed that her sharp eyes reflected a thick murderous intent at the same time. Chapter 2056. The guy named Shen Qingjiang was still bragging when he suddenly saw the prettiest girl in the car, whom he had been paying attention to earlier, walk up to him from the front seat. Shen Qingjiang whistled and looked at Yun Jian, who was walking up to him. Thinking that Yun Jian was captivated by what he said just now as well, he flipped his hair and stopped the topic, telling Yun Jian, What's wrong with you? Pretty lady, are you interested in New Cruise too? What did you steal from New Cruise? Yun Jian asked with a cold expression. 2 days ago, Zhang Jifan had sent her a message. Something had been stolen from New Cruise. The item was worth hundreds of thousands, which was not worth much to New Cruise. However, the person who had stolen the item had conveniently taken away the design blueprint of the latest sports car that New Cruise had purchased at a high price. It was very important to New Cruise. The design blueprint was the inspiration of a professor who was a genius in car production. It was the only one in the world, and even the professor could not produce a second one. New Cruise was equipped with cameras, but the cameras in this era were very blurry. One could only vaguely see a person's silhouette. Moreover, the person who had stolen the design blueprint of the latest sports car happened to be carrying the camera. Currently, New Cruise had begun a large-scale search for the thief. This had happened 2 days ago. If they had not found the thief, Yin Jian was planning to return to New Cruise and search for the culprit personally. However, she did not expect to hear Shen Qingjiang's words here. Shen Qingjiang had long scanned the pretty female university students in the car, and had spotted the prettiest one among them, Yin Jian. However, Yin Jian did not seem to care about anything, so Shen Qingjiang found it difficult to make a move. However, Shen Qingjiang did not expect Yin Jian to offer herself to him. When he heard Yin Jian's words, Shen Qingjiang thought that Yin Jian was interested in what he had said. He quickly replied, What else could it be? A treasure, of course. Brother Jiang stole it, so it belongs to him. New Cruise doesn't lack these things. You're not even Brother Jiang's girlfriend, so why are you being so nosy? A fat girl stood in front of Yin Jian. At the same time, she shook her body twice with a rude and unreasonable look on her face. You're a student from another school, right? They are so nosy that their elbows are about to reach out to our Jiangqing Normal University. Stand further away, stand further away. What an eyesore. Together with the chubby girl, there was an elegant and beautiful young lady with a slender figure. She was dressed in luxurious clothes and stood in front of Yun Jian, shooting a disdainful glance at Yun Jian. Whether it was Shen Qingjiang, the fat girl, or the good-looking girl who spoke later, they were all students of Jiangqing Normal University. The chubby girl was called Kai Xingyuan, and the good-looking girl was called Wu Zhizhi. Kai Xingyuan and Wu Zhizhi were mesmerized by Shen Qingjiang. They did not know what was right and wrong, so they started yelling at Yun Jian. The other girls around Shen Qingjiang commented on Yun Jian as well, calling her shameless for coming up to them out of the blue. Indeed, if what Shen Qingjiang did had nothing to do with Yun Jian, then Yun Jian would be shameless for coming over out of nowhere. However, Shen Qingjiang admitted that he had stolen something from New Cruise. Moreover, Yun Jian had seen the surveillance video. The thief who had stolen the design blueprint had the exact same build as Shen Qingjiang. Yun Jian would remember anyone who caught her eye, no matter how tall or strong they were. This was the result of her years of experience and ability in assassination. Yun Jian ignored Kai Xingyuan and Wu Zhizhi. She looked at Shen Qingjiang coldly and said bluntly, "Among the things you stole, there were a few blueprints for the interior and exterior of sports cars." "How did you know?" Shen Qingjiang exclaimed in shock when he heard Yun Jian's words. "Pretty girl, don't tell me you have superpowers. You're amazing," Shen Qingjiang exclaimed as he looked at Yun Jian. It sounded like he was exclaiming, but in reality, Shen Qingjiang wanted to get closer to Yun Jian. As he spoke, Shen Qingjiang pushed away a girl who was secretly touching his thigh beside him. He patted the spot and said to Yun Jian, "Pretty girl, you're a pretty girl. Beauty, it seems like you're a kindred spirit. Why don't we sit down and talk? What do you think? I'll bring you to New Cruise next time, how about that? I've been researching how to be a master thief recently. I realized that I'm really suitable to be one. Want to join me?" Shen Qingjiang's words immediately made Wu Zhizhi unhappy. "Brother Jiang, didn't you say you'd bring me?" "Don't worry, I'll bring you next time." Shen Qingjiang brushed Wu Zhizhi off and turned to look at Yun Jian. "Hand over the design blueprint." Shen Qingjiang had just turned to look at Yun Jian when Yun Jian spoke. Shen Qingjiang was stunned when he heard that. "Pretty girl, I got those with my own abilities. Why should I give them to you? Unless you sleep with me." Before Shen Qingjiang could finish his sentence, Yun Jian stood before him. Yun Jian stood in front of Shen Qingjiang and the others. Her expression did not change and her cold eyes were as sharp as ever. In the next second, Yun Jian's right hand came to the side of Shen Qingjiang's neck. Shen Qingjiang thought that Yun Jian was going to let him touch her hand. Just as he was about to touch her hand with a smile, a cold object pressed against his neck before he could touch Yun Jian's hand. That object reflected a ray of light from the setting sun that shone through the window of the bus. It was only then that the crowd saw that Yun Jian was holding a shiny butterfly knife. Before the crowd could react, Yun Jian had already spoken in front of everyone on the bus. Her voice was as cold as ice in February. In the next second, everyone on the bus widened their eyes in shock. "You stole my stuff and invited me to steal from my company. How dare you? Do you really think that I'm just a decoration as the chairman of New Cruise?" Chapter 2057. Yun Jian's voice was flat and monotonous, but it was as cold as ice in February. It was so cold that everyone in the bus, especially Shen Qingjiang who sat in front, Kai Xingyuan, and Wu Zhizhi beside him, shuddered from the bottom of their hearts. What do you mean?" Wu Zhizhi had yet to catch on to what Yun Jian meant. "Your stuff? No, that's New Cruise's stuff. It's Brother Zhang's stuff now. Since when did it become yours? You can't be the director of New Cruise." Kai Xingyuan was so fat that the lumps of fat on her body started jiggling after she spoke. She shook her fat body and scolded Yun Jian with a manly, rough voice. Everyone in the bus did not think that Yun Jian was New Cruise's director. After all, her age was obvious. New Cruise was an international brand. If Yun Jian was New Cruise's director, she would have started New Cruise at the age of 15, right? What kind of joke was that? I'll give it to you. Put the knife down and I'll give it to you. Shen Qingjiang was still afraid of death. His pupils shrunk slightly as he stuttered. Give it to me first. Yin Jian's words left no room for argument. Shen Qingjiang, who initially wanted to trick Yin Jian, was afraid that the knife would be blind. Moreover, it was just a piece of scrap paper. He had brought it along because he liked the supercar's blueprint. It was useless to him. Clearly, Shen Qingjiang did not know that the piece of scrap paper he thought was worthless would fetch a sky-high price in the international market. Shen Qingjiang reached his hands into his shirt and pants pockets and searched around for a while. He then glanced at Yun Jian. Seeing that Yun Jian was staring at him, he slowly passed the blueprint to Yun Jian. Yun Jian took the blueprint from Shen Qingjiang's hands and kept the butterfly knife. She was so fast that no one could see when she put the knife away. By then, the bus had driven into the bumpy, uncemented, and muddy land ahead. As soon as the big bus drove into the bumpy, muddy ground, the whole bus started to sway left and right, causing the whole bus to jolt. Some of the students sitting on the bus didn't react to the sudden jolt, and their bodies involuntarily fell forward. Shen Qingjiang was sitting in the middle of the last row of the bus. There was no seat in front of him. The person standing straight in front of Shen Qingjiang was Yin Jian. As the bus jolted, Shen Qingjiang was jolted along with it. He rolled his eyes and wanted to take advantage of the bumpy road to pretend that he fell forward and accidentally fell on Yun Jian. In the bumpy ride of the bus, Yin Jian retreated to her original seat in the front row in a few flashes without a care in the world. Shen Qingjiang missed the bus and fell face first onto the dirty floor of the bus. Shen Qingjiang was in so much pain that he could not stand up for a long time. Initially, he wanted to pounce on Yun Jian and rub her voluptuous breasts. But he did not expect Yun Jian to react so quickly. In the end, Kai Xingyuan, Wu Zhizhi, and the other girls helped Shen Qingjiang up. Sit tight and don't run around. The next 3 hours will be bumpy road. The driver shouted as he drove. This time, the university students organized a support program in the countryside. The teacher followed along, and was now sitting at the front of the bus with his eyes closed. After the bus drove into the bumpy mountain road, many students who were sleeping woke up with a start. What's wrong? Why is the bus shaking? Liang Xiaomin, who had been sleeping and did not know what had happened, woke up with a start. By the time everyone came to their senses, the car was already shaking left and right. The bus swayed and swayed for about 3 hours on the deserted road. They arrived at the destination of the program, Wuxia in City W of H Province. Chapter 2058. Wuxia was located in the middle of a rugged ravine. It was a very remote and barren place. It was different from Xinjiang town where Yin Jian was reborn. The wealth gap between Wuxia and Xinjiang town was huge. Compared to Xinjiang town, Wuxia could not even be considered a town. Wuxia was surrounded by mountains and the roads were rugged. The people relied on their own sowing and harvesting to survive. There were no large textile factories in Wuxia. Just imagine, from Wuxia to the remote suburbs of City W, it took 3 hours by car. No large company would choose to invest in Wuxia. This was truly a poor mountainous area. How poor was it? The people here, be it the elderly or the children, had never walked out of the mountains in their lives. The transportation here was very inconvenient. Occasionally, there would be people who would go to the city to collect on Mondays, but they would drive vehicles like tractors and tricycles. A normal bus would take 3 hours. Driving such a vehicle to the city would take at least 2 to 3 times longer than the bus. Moreover, taking a tractor to the city was expensive. The poverty here was beyond imagination. No news report could fully describe the hardships of the people at the bottom of society. Yin Jian had thought that Xinjiang town was already considered poor. After all, to her, who used to be at the top of the world, Xinjiang town was a stark contrast. However, in comparison to Xinjiang town, Wu town paled in comparison. Oh my God, are we really going to stay here for the next 7 days? This house is made of mud, right? What if the house collapses in the middle of the night? We'll die. And this road is full of potholes. There's not even a cement floor. The students exclaimed when they saw the scene before them. Although he was prepared, He was still shocked when he saw the scene in front of him. How was this a house? The houses in Wuxia were all made of mud. Occasionally, those who were better off lived in stone houses. As for a brick house, to the people of Wuxia, that was simply impossible. All right, I'll bring you to Wuxia's mayor. He'll arrange a place for you to stay. The only teacher leading the group led the students across the potholes of the mud towards the mayor's house. Soon, the students were all settled down. Wuxia was a town. There are also villages here. Some of the students were taken to the village children's homes. Wuxia had a combined primary school and junior high school. If the children who lived in the village did not live in the school, they had to walk for about 2 hours every day to get to Wuxia. The distance from Wuxia to the outskirts of W City was far enough. Those poor children from the mountainous areas lived even deeper into the mountains than Wuxia. Yunjian followed him for about 2 hours on the mountain road. Finally, she was taken to a village that was 2 hours away from Wuxia. Some of the students refused to go to the village no matter what, so the mayor arranged for them to live with the best families in Wuxia. But to be honest, the family conditions in this place were not that different. Of course, Wuxia could not accommodate so many people, so the mayor led Yunjian and the others to Dali village, which was the nearest village to Wuxia but was still a 2-hour walk away. It was not easy to walk at night, but with a lantern, they could still walk. I can't walk anymore, I can't walk anymore, Liang Xiaomin panted. She could not keep up. The extra rooms in Wuxia had already been taken by other students. Liang Xiaomin was complaining about her father the whole way. She complained as she walked. Don't talk when you walk or you'll be more tired. Yunjian helped Liang Xiaomin walk up a steep slope. Little girl, you know so much at such a young age. It's rare. The mayor led the way with a lantern and could not help but exclaim. College students nowadays were spoiled. After walking so many mountain roads, it was normal for them to be like Liang Xiaomin. There were not many who could endure hardship like this little girl. Chapter 2059. The mayor even made fun of them as he spoke. The mayor's words eased everyone's mood a little. Now walking on the mountain path that went up and down was no longer as boring as it was at the beginning. Most of the people stayed in Wuxia. Only a dozen people followed them to Dali village. Fortunately, it did not rain during the day, so the mountain path was not slippery. Everyone was exhausted from the climb. 2 hours later, amidst the crowd's repeated questions about their arrival, the mayor brought them to a small village. This was Dali village. Compared to Wuxia, this place was even more desolate. Even the mud houses had become houses that only the rich of Dali village could afford to live in. Many people in Dali village lived in shabby thatched huts. The mayor went from house to house and asked people to arrange accommodation for Yunjian and the rest. Yunjian and Liang Xiaomin were arranged to live in the same house in Dali village. After the mayor reminded them, he went back to Wuxia. The dozen or so college students who were arranged to live in Dali village were all told by the mayor that the children of these families would cross the mountains alone the next day to study in Wuxia. When the time came, Yunjian and the rest would follow their children to Wuxia Primary School to meet up with the other college students who were here to teach. By then, the mayor had already left. Yunjian and Liang Xiaomin were sitting at the wooden table in the house they were arranged to live in. It was already 11 o'clock at night. The children and farmers in the mountains all went to bed early. They went to bed as soon as the sky turned dark. Today's incident was sudden. The mayor woke up the people in these houses and arranged for Yunjian and the rest to live in. At this moment, Yunjian and Liang Xiaomin were sitting on the only 2 wooden stools in the thatched hut. An 11-year-old girl with rosy cheeks and a dirty face was standing in front of them. The girl's clothes were faded. One of her big toes was sticking out of the shoe because the shoe was broken. The shoe was also covered in mud. It looked like it had been worn for many years and was no longer fitting. In this cold and windy weather, the little girl only wore 2 pieces of shabby and dirty clothes. Her small body could not stop shivering. There was a rotten smell in the thatched hut. Liang Xiaomin couldn't help but cover her mouth and nose, breathing softly. However, since she was lodging in someone else's house, Liang Xiaomin was too embarrassed to say anything. She could only blame her father. This is not a place for people to live. This was a pigsty. After a long silence, the little girl greeted Yunjian and Liang Xiumin fearfully. Hello, sisters. Where are your parents? Liang Xiumin covered her mouth and nose as she asked the little girl. Yunjian blinked but didn't say anything. If one were to ask Yunjian how she felt about this place, the answer would be simple. She had once walked at the peak of the world, becoming an existence at the top of society that everyone looked up to but could not reach. He had once been at the bottom of the valley. When he first joined in Hun, his status was even lower than a dog's. Therefore, to her, no matter what the situation was, she could accept it. When Liang Xiumin asked this question, the little girl fell silent. Just when Yunjian and Liang Xiumin thought that the little girl would not answer, she suddenly sobbed. There's only me, my brother, and my grandmother at home. My father is dead, and my mother doesn't want us anymore. As she spoke, the little girl shrank back in fear. Yunjian and Liang Xiumin later found out that the little girl's father had accidentally been crushed to death when he moved rocks in town to earn money. Her mother had run away with someone long ago and left the mountains. There was only a bedridden grandmother to take care of. Not only did the little girl have to bring her brother to school in town, but she also had to work in the fields whenever she was free. Otherwise, the family of 3 would starve to death. After the little girl finished speaking, Yunjian and Liang Xiumin fell silent for 2 seconds. But Ying, don't be afraid. Grandma said before that my mother will definitely come back. The little girl's name was Lu Ying. It was a very beautiful name. It was said that before her mother ran away with someone else, her father and they had asked a cultured person in Wuxia to help them give her the name. Lu Ying's eyes were clear and pure, something that other children didn't have. This touched Liang Xiumin's heart. Yunjian also blinked. Then where did your mother go? Liang Xiumin couldn't believe that Lu Ying's mother didn't want her anymore. She asked again. When Lu Ying heard this, she fell silent for a few seconds. Then she shook her head. I don't know, but my father said that my mother will definitely come back. My mother won't abandon us. Chapter 2060. Lu Ying's clear and firm eyes made people unwilling to break the only wish of this innocent little girl who missed her mother. Her wish was very simple. She wanted to live happily with her mother. Lu Ying's younger brother was called Lu Shi. The names of the 2 siblings were given by the cultured people in Wuxia, so it sounded pretty good. At night, Yunjian and Liang Xiumin were placed in the same room. The room was dark and damp. In the middle of winter, the 2 of them shared a quilt that had already been covered. The quilt smelled like someone had covered it. It was very smelly and very thin. This place is so shabby. The quilt that was given to us is so thin and cold. And it's so smelly. The room is as smelly as a pigsty. I want to go home. Liang Xiumin shrank her body. It was already the 100th time that she tried to dial the phone in her hand. However, there was no signal here at all. The phone could not be dialed. Not to mention the phone, there was not even an electric light here. They relied on candles for illumination at night. There were not even many candles. They were used sparingly. Liang Xiumin was a rich young lady. Naturally, she could not stay in such a place. Yunjian could understand. After the quilt was covered, Yunjian turned sideways and said to Liang Xiumin, sleep. At 1:30 in the morning, Liang Xiumin, who was still groggy and sleepy, gently pulled Yunjian. Can you accompany me to the toilet? I'm a little scared. If she wanted to go to the toilet at night, she had to walk a few hundred meters before there was a latrine. There was no toilet at home. Yunjian was used to wearing clothes at night. She turned over and stood up. Although Liang Xiumin did not understand why Yunjian did not change into pajamas to sleep, she did not ask. After returning from the toilet, she happened to pass by the room of the little girl, Lu Ying, and her brother, Lu Shi. Sister, I'm so cold. Brother, be good. You won't be cold when you sleep. Go to sleep. If the quilt was on the body, no matter how cold it was, it would not be so cold that he could not sleep. Yunjian and Liang Xiumin could see through the thin gap of the window made of wood and paper that could not block the cold wind from blowing into the room. Lu Ying and Lu Shi did not cover themselves with anything. They only wore 2 more layers of clothes. They huddled together and shivered. The 2 extra layers of clothing were so thin that they were no different from not wearing anything at all. They were as thin as a piece of paper. Even an idiot could tell that the 2 young children had given up the only blanket that Liang Xiaomin had complained about being thin, smelly, and dirty just now to Yun Jian and Liang Xiaomin. Both Yun Jian and Liang Xiaomin felt like they were deeply touched by something when they witnessed the scene. Even Yun Jian's face could not help but change. Liang Xiaomin turned to glance at Yun Jian before she dashed into their room, carrying the blanket to Lu Ying and Lu Shi's room. She tossed the blanket on their bed right in front of the couple. Liang Xiaomin didn't know how to speak. By the time she reacted, Lu Ying and Lu Shi were already staring at her in a daze. Liang Xiaomin made up her mind. She closed her eyes and said stubbornly, "I was woken up by the smell of this blanket." Emph. With that, Liang Xiaomin ran back to her and Yun Jian's room. An 11-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy stared blankly at Liang Xiaomin, who despised their quilt, running back to her room. They did not know what to do. Yun Jian, who was hiding in the dark, saw this and narrowed her eyes. Liang Xiaomin was clearly freezing to death, but she still wanted to return the quilt to Lu Ying and Lu Shi. Her words were so harsh. However, it really did seem like her temperament as a young lady. Liang Xiaomin was cold and did not sleep that night. The next morning, after Lu Ying made breakfast and fed it to her bedridden grandmother, everyone sat at the table and had breakfast. Breakfast was porridge. There were no side dishes. Rather than porridge, it was more like a pot of water with a small handful of rice in it. It was a fragrant tea made from rice. Eating this would not fill one's stomach, but at least one would not starve to death. Before going to Wuxia, Lu Ying drew a line on the wall next to her house. Half of the wall was already covered with countless Zheng characters. After Lu Ying finished this line, she pulled her brother and led Yun Jian and Liang Xiaomin to the mountain path in town. When they were about to reach school, Lu Ying's footsteps became lighter. Liang Xiaomin could not help but be curious and asked Lu Ying, "Little girl, what did you draw on the wall just now?" "Wait for Mom to come back." Lu Ying pulled her brother and walked briskly. She walked in front and suddenly turned her head and smiled at Yun Jian and Lu Shi, revealing her small canine teeth. "Before Dad left, he said that as long as I filled the wall with Zheng characters, Mom will come back." Some people lived a luxurious life and ate fish and meat every day. But some people had very small wishes. No matter how poor and bitter they were, they only wanted their parents to grow up with them. Chapter 2061. They left at 4:30 p.m. and finally arrived at Wuxia Elementary School at 6:30 p.m. Wuxia Elementary School was different from other elementary schools. There were very few children in Wuxia, and the number of people in each grade was not enough to form a class. So in Wuxia Elementary School, grades 1, 2 and 3 were in one class and grades 4, 5 and 6 were in one class. There were only 2 classes in the entire school. A place like Wuxia Elementary School lacked teachers the most. But most of the teachers who graduated from universities did not want to come to such a poor mountainous area. Now there were only 2 teachers in Wuxia Elementary School. Other than the principal, there was also a female teacher who volunteered to come to the poor mountainous area. Seeing Lu Ying and Lu Shi enter the classroom, Yun Jian and Liang Xiaomin did not plan to follow. There were no activities on the first day of going to the countryside. All the university students who went to the countryside to teach gathered here, and were immediately dismissed. From the second day onwards, every university student would be officially arranged to tutor the children here. Since they had nothing to do, Yun Jian and Liang Xiaomin went to town to buy a few large quilts. They also bought new quilts for Lu Ying and Lu Shi's grandma. At this moment, the 2 were passing by a large bamboo forest. There was only one bed and quilt shop in Wuxia, and the bamboo forest was a must. There were trees planted all around the bamboo forest. The biggest difference between Wuxia and other small towns was that there were a lot of bamboo and trees. The surrounding grass was also as tall as a person. If someone was hiding in the grass, it would be hard to find them. It's so easy to get them. These 2 women came here on their own. They're so King soft. I heard that they're female university students from the city. Knock them out, we'll take one each and *CK them again after we're done. Just as they passed by the bamboo forest, two voices came from the corner. Liang Xiumin naturally could not hear the whispers, but Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. After taking 3 steps forward, a gust of wind came from behind. Yun Jian did not even think about it. She grabbed Liang Xiumin and threw the quilt to the side. She turned sideways and flipped over a dozen meters with Liang Xiumin in just 3 seconds. When the 2 ruffians from Wuxia saw this, they were shocked. This girl is so fast and fierce. These 2 old ruffians were old bachelors. Both of them had achieved nothing in their lives and could not afford to marry a woman. They had only slept with the lonely widows in town a few times. When the 2 old bachelors saw Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin's soft and tender skin, their nether regions began to itch and they began to have naughty thoughts. Unexpectedly, Yun Jian found out. TSK female university student, you're so *king soft and tender. Let me tell you, people rarely pass by this place. Today, it's useless even if you scream until your throat breaks. One of the old ruffians looked at Yun Jian with a lecherous gaze. Who says there's no one? I won't let you bully them. Just as Yun Jian narrowed her eyes, a righteous male voice sounded. Next, she saw a masculine and righteous man. The boy was about 20 years old. He was quite handsome and gave people the feeling of a gentle senior. Senior Mu Qiao? Liang Xiumin was stunned when she saw the boy. Senior Mu Yong was a student of Liang Xiumin's school. He had only greeted Liang Xiumin twice, but they were not familiar with each other. TSK boy, you're courting death. However, the 2 old ruffians did not wait for Liang Xiumin and Mu Yong to speak. They rushed over and gave the defenseless Mu Yong a few punches before tying him up. What should we do? Liang Xiumin saw that Mu Yong was tied up. She was so frightened that she grabbed Yun Jian's hand and pulled Yun Jian back to the bamboo forest. Yes, what should we do? Hee, you 2 should just follow us. Our big brother has been lonely for so many years. It's not easy to catch you. Let us have some fun. One of the old ruffians walked over with a smirk. Seeing this, Liang Xiumin was even more frightened. Let them go. Let them go. Hit me. Hit me if you have the guts. Let them go. Mu Yong shouted when he saw this. The other old ruffian stepped on Mu Yong's head and viciously stomped on Mu Yong a few times. He shouted, "Boy, behave yourself. Otherwise I'll kill you." After that, he tied Mu Yong to a tree and continued to walk toward Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin. Hee, little girl, what are you thinking? Want to escape? No way. If you know what's good for you, come here obediently and let us kill you. Otherwise. The old ruffian saw that Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and seemed to be thinking about something. He laughed. I'm thinking about how to kill you. Unknowingly, a butterfly knife appeared in Yun Jian's hand. She played with the butterfly knife and suddenly spoke. The 2 old ruffians were startled. But the 2 old ruffians were also frightened. Naturally, they were not afraid and continued to walk toward Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin. Little girl, we are frightened. Let alone you. Even if an assassin agent comes, I'll kill her. The 2 old ruffians sneered and continued to walk toward them. Is that so? What a coincidence. Yun Jian played with the butterfly knife twice and stood in front of the old ruffians. Then, in front of the few people present, she spoke fearlessly. But what she said made everyone present stunned. In the 7 years since my debut, I've taken on 1027 assassination missions and annihilated 109 assassin organizations. I don't know if I'm the same as the assassin agent you said. Chapter 2062. Yun Jian was 18 years old this year. She started killing people when she was 12 years old, which meant that she started accepting missions. She was 16 years old before her rebirth and 15 years old after her rebirth. After 3 years, her current body was 18 years old, but if she started her career, she would be 19 years old now. So it was not wrong that she started her career 7 years ago. And these 1027 assassination missions were from 109 assassin organizations. The assassination missions were calculated according to the missions accepted on the International Assassin website. In other words, after the Holy Spring and her rebirth, Yunjian almost never accepted assassination missions. This was her previous record. As for the 109 assassin organizations, they were all the assassin organizations she had eliminated in her previous life, and all the assassin organizations she had eliminated after her rebirth. Not to mention the fact that ordinary people would find this data unbelievable. Even in the assassin and agent circle, it was a level that no one could surpass. Even though Yunjian had not returned to the assassin and agent circle for 3 years, a true legend was not just a legend for a short period of time. Becoming a legend at the fastest speed and falling at a shocking speed was not something a strong person should do. Even though she had been missing for 2 years, once she returned, she was still a legend that no one could surpass. She was still the king of secret agents. Yunjian had done this. At this time, after hearing Yunjian's professional words, the 2 old ruffians' hearts skipped a beat. Even Liang Xiumin's expression changed slightly in shock. The agent Yunjian was talking about should be the special forces, right? Mu Yao, who was tied up by the 2 old ruffians, also widened her eyes in shock. She had to admit that Yunjian's words were too unbelievable. She was an assassin or an agent. Was this for real? The 2 old ruffians still had some common sense. Although the people in Wuxia were poor and had a hard life, that was only limited to the honest people. Like these 2 old ruffians, they usually tricked the people who went to the city to deliver goods to and from the city for free. Or they would go to someone's family to steal some money. They had done such things many times. They had been to the city a few times and had seen more than those who had never left Wuxia in their lives. After hearing Yunjian's words, the shorter old ruffian glanced at Yunjian. "Little girl, don't bully us because we are from Wuxia. We have been to the big cities. Some people are not so easy to fool." "You said you are an assassin agent? Who are you trying to fool? Aren't you just a university student who came from some place? Do you think we are fooling you? You think you can pretend to be an assassin with a knife? I grew up scared." As he spoke, the short ruffian wanted to go over and snatch the butterfly knife from Yunjian. The taller old ruffian also went over to help him. Liang Xiumin was in Wuxia, but she was in Wuxia. Yunjian was still here, and so was Senior Mu Qiong, who had saved them just now even though she failed to do so. The 2 ruffians went to Yunjian right under Liang Xiumin and Mu Yu's eyes. However, before anyone could react, Yunjian, who was standing not far away, gave a cold red arc. In the next breath, everyone could only feel their clothes being blown by a sudden strong wind, and their skin that was stuck to their clothes felt cold. In a speed that no one could see clearly, Yunjian suddenly stretched out her hands and held a butterfly knife in each hand. She quickly walked to the front of the 2 old ruffians and held the butterfly knife with both hands. She slid the blade of the butterfly knife from the 2 old ruffians' navels to their hearts. At the same time, she was facing the 2 old ruffians. As she moved her hands, she lightly kicked the ground with her legs and did a somersault. She did not touch the 2 old ruffians at all, and flipped over their heads. Hiss! When everyone reacted, the 2 ruffians' clothes were torn by Yunjian. By the time everyone realized what had happened, the clothes of the 2 old ruffians had already been torn apart, and the place where the last cut had been made was precisely where their hearts were. If the blade had slid a little deeper, then when the 2 old ruffians realized this, their faces turned pale. At this time Yunjian, who was already standing behind the 2 old ruffians, spoke in an extremely calm voice. That voice was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper chopping down on people's heads, with a frightening magic. "Want to go to hell and try it? Eh?" Chapter 2063. I'll send you to hell for free. Just when the 2 old ruffians witnessed Yunjian's perfect knife skills, Yunjian's voice came from behind them. That chilly tone that did not contain the slightest hint of a joke was like the Grim Reaper from hell with a scythe in his hand. It was as if that soul-shaking sound had come from the hall of hell. The 2 old ruffians widened their eyes and their frightened bodies trembled. You, who are you? Even the female university student who fell behind is not as good as you. Are you a university student or not? That short old ruffian slowly turned around. He didn't have time to cover his exposed skin, but exposed his hairy chest in front of everyone and said in a daze, Female university students were usually delicate girls who studied in school. Usually, after running 800 meters, they would be so tired that their chest heaved up and down, and they would gasp for breath. These two old ruffians, however, were genuine farmers. They did rough work every day and had done rough work all their lives. Not to mention other things, they were full of strength. At least, that female university student was powerless in the hands of these two old ruffians. But just now, when the two of them were dealing with Yun Jian, they couldn't even touch the corner of her clothes. Furthermore, she actually jumped up and flipped over their heads at the same time, using the two butterfly knives to cut open their clothes. What kind of speed and strength was this? But even so, these two old ruffians didn't believe that Yun Jian was an assassin or a secret agent. Whether I'm a university student or not, haven't I already said it? Yun Jian was already standing in front of the two old ruffians. Her hands nimbly and freely played with the two butterfly knives. She played with the extremely difficult butterfly knives incisively and vividly. Then Liang Xiaomin and that senior named Mu Yong saw such a shocking scene. Yun Jian took 2 steps towards the two old ruffians. The two old ruffians were so scared that they took 2 steps back. This was a sharp contrast to the two old ruffians' arrogance at the beginning. You two old ruffians. Could it be that the female university student you're talking about has already been? When Liang Xiaomin heard that the two old ruffians had just met a female university student, she was so scared that her face suddenly changed. Since the short old ruffian said that the girl who fell behind wasn't as powerful as Yun Jian, it meant that the two old ruffians had already done something to her. What the two old ruffians wanted to do to Yun Jian and Liang Xiaomin, they must have already done it to the female university student who was left behind. It's her fault for wearing so little. She's only wearing a pair of shorts and long, flesh-colored socks in the middle of winter. The women in our town don't show their thighs even in summer. It's as if she's not wearing anything. She's not trying to seduce us. She just wants us to do her. What else can she do? The short ruffian still had a reason to quibble. This short old ruffian had a lot of chest hair, the kind that was thick and dense, looking like the body hair of a gorilla. Of course, the short old ruffian's chest hair was concentrated on one point, which made him look even more disgusting. Hearing the old ruffian's words, Liang Xiaomin was so scared that she almost cried. After all, Liang Xiaomin was a pampered person and had never seen such a scene. She felt sorry for the unfortunate female university student, but she was also afraid that if Yun Jian didn't have the ability to do so just now, then wouldn't she and Yun Jian? I don't care what reason you're using to clear your name. Since you've touched someone, you should pay the price. As Yun Jian spoke, her cold eyes deepened. She held the butterfly knife and walked towards the two old ruffians. You, what do you want to do? Let me tell you, it's illegal to hurt someone. The two old ruffians were so scared that they retreated. Mu Xiao, who was tied up by the two old ruffians, was stunned when she saw this. But in the next second, Mu Xiao heard Yun Jian say, "Is rape not a crime?" At that time, have you ever thought that you've already committed a crime? These words made Mu Xiao want to clap her hands and cheer. But Mu Xiao was tied up. But at this moment, Mu Xiao suddenly saw Yun Jian holding 2 butterfly knives and directly stabbing them into the thighs of the 2 old ruffians who were about to retreat. Ah! 2 screams pierced through the sky. Blood flowed out. But Yun Jian didn't care about this at all. After she took out the 2 butterfly knives, she turned around and faced the 2 old ruffians with her back facing them. She sneered. "I'll cripple one of your legs. In order to repay the surprise you gave me just now, I'll return the favor. If someone passes by here and saves you, you're lucky. If not, then go to hell." Chapter 2064. These words were as plain as a wisp of smoke, and then there was no more sound. But these extremely plain words carried a sense of fear that made people have no choice but to take them seriously. Yun Jian had just stabbed the knife into the thighs of the 2 old ruffians, and then pulled out the butterfly knife directly. This back and forth action left no way for the 2 old ruffians. If the knife was directly stabbed into their thighs and not pulled out, there would still be a chance for them to survive. After all, the blood in their thighs would not flow out so quickly. But once the knife was pulled out, the blood in their thighs could not be stopped. If no one passed by here to save the two old ruffians in a certain time, even if they were not sent to heaven by this knife, they would die in the situation where their blood ran out. At first, the two old ruffians had said that few people would pass by here. This was also the reason why the two old ruffians chose this place to attack Yunjian and Liang Xiaomin. But it was a pity that the two old ruffians must have never thought that their previous plan to attack Yunjian and Liang Xiaomin would backstab them. As for why Yunjian did not directly kill the two old ruffians, it was because she wanted them to watch her die. There was no death more terrifying than watching one's own life slipping away bit by bit. And Yunjian hated people like these two old ruffians who attacked girls when they saw that they had no strength to truss a chicken. This kind of people were the worst. You want to kill us? If you want to kill us, quickly save us, quickly save us, quickly save us. The pain from the knife in their thighs made the two old ruffians roll on the ground in pain. Not to mention standing up and walking. Even their vision gradually began to blur. Their tone of speaking was even more vague, and even they did not know what they were saying. Let's go. In exchange, Yunjian's cold and indifferent words were what they got. Yunjian's words were directed at Liang Xiaomin. Liang Xiaomin was a spoiled young lady, and she had never seen such a scene. She screamed in fear from the moment Yunjian stabbed the butterfly knife into the thighs of the two old ruffians. Not to mention at this moment, when she saw the two old ruffians' thighs bleeding nonstop. To be honest, Liang Xiaomin's soul was almost shaken out of her body. Still not leaving? Seeing that Liang Xiaomin did not react for a long time, Yunjian narrowed her eyes. Go go go. Go. Liang Xiaomin did not dare to look at the two old ruffians who were screaming, and ran to Mu Yao. After she untied the rope for Mu Yao, she wanted to leave with Yunjian. I will not let you off. Even as a ghost, I will kill you. Seeing that Yun of Yunjian, of Yun of Yun of Liang, of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun, of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun of people of Yunjian of Yun of Yun of Yun of Yun, Yunjian, let's go. I'm scared, Liang. She of Yun of Yunjian of Yun of Yunjian of Yun of Yun. Are you going to save them? Then let me help you. After all, if these two people really die here, sooner or later, something big will happen. Mu Yao thought that Yunjian of Yunjian had stopped to find someone to save the two old ruffians. After all, if they killed people, they would be discovered sooner or later. With the current situation of these two old ruffians, if they really left without asking, the probability of them dying was very high. Mu Yao turned around, wanting to help send the two old ruffians to the small clinic in Wuxia. Just as Mu Yu turned around, she saw Yunjian turn her head and shift her stunning side profile to the two old ruffians in front of everyone. She sneered and spoke frankly to the two ruffians, saying something that shocked and horrified everyone present. What do you think? Many people have said the same thing to me, but they are all dead now. You two don't matter. Chapter 2065. Based on Yunjian's words, everyone present, including Mu Xiao and Liang Xiaomin, could not help but panic. An emotion called shock swept over them. How many people had Yunjian killed? Or to put it in another way, what kind of place did she grow up in? Why did she have such shocking strength and skills? Mu Xiao had clearly seen that Yunjian did not even blink when she stabbed the two butterfly knives into the thighs of the two ruffians. There was only coldness and indifference in her eyes. It was as if she had just stabbed an ant with the butterfly knives. After Yunjian finished speaking, she did not wait for the two ruffians behind her to hug their thighs and roll on the ground while saying something. She waved at Liang Xiaomin and Mu Xiao and quickly left. Before Liang Xiaomin left, she ran over to pick up the newly bought blankets. She did not dare to turn her head to look at the knife wounds on the two ruffians' thighs. She only lowered her head and hurried to catch up with Yunjian. On the way back, Liang Xiaomin remained silent. Liang Xiaomin was a missy after all. When had she ever seen such a scene? Even the scene of a butcher slaughtering a pig would probably make Liang Xiaomin pale with fright. Yunjian had just stabbed a living person's thigh. Yunjian, is it really okay for us to just leave like this? Liang Xiaomin turned her head to look around in fear. She hugged the blankets and followed beside Yunjian. Yunjian nodded. She did not say anything else. A strange light flashed across Mu Zhao's eyes. It was only then that Mu Yu pointed at Yunjian and said, "Those two are too shameless. If it weren't for her, we would have really died today. Don't care if they live or die. They deserve it." Moreover, a female classmate who came with us was tragically killed by them. That girl's pure and innocent chastity was sullied by those two things. Such people should die. Mu Zhao's words made Liang Xiumin's eyes move slightly. Yeah, if it wasn't for Yunjian today, we would have ended up like that female classmate. I would have died. Liang Xiumin thought that if her innocence was taken away by that old ruffian before she gave it to her boyfriend, Jinyu, she probably didn't want to live anymore. At the thought of this, Liang Xiumin was so frightened that her body trembled. Thinking about it this way, those two old ruffians really deserved to die. Just don't know what happened to the girl who was taken away by the old ruffian. Senior Mu Yu, no matter what, thank you for today. At this moment, Liang Xiumin suddenly remembered that Mu Yao had rushed out to save her and Yunjian. She turned her head and thanked her. The eldest miss would sometimes restrain her emotions and thank others. It's fine as long as you guys are fine. Ha! Mu Xiao rubbed his head and laughed. His head had just been stepped on by one of the old ruffians, and now his hair was covered in dust. Seeing this, Liang Xiumin was even more grateful. Just as they returned to the vicinity of Wuzhen Primary School, one after another, noisy screams were heard. It seemed like something big had happened. When Yunjian and the other two came to the side of a short mud house, they saw a college girl standing on a steep cliff not far away. This cliff was about 6 stories high. If one jumped down from it, they would definitely die. At the bottom of the cliff, which was the short mud house, there was a group of people surrounding it. A few college students who came with Yunjian were standing there. They were so frightened that their faces were pale. However, they were desperately shouting for the female student who was standing alone on the cliff to calm down. Sure, don't be agitated. What exactly happened? Don't jump. Don't jump. This was the cry of the female student who wanted to jump down from a high place to commit suicide. What exactly is going on? How would I know? I just came over and saw this little girl wanting to commit suicide. How old is she? She's so noisy. She came to our Wuzhen to commit suicide. If something really happened, what should we do? This girl from the city is really difficult to deal with. Chapter 2066. Except for the female university student who was standing on the high ground with a face full of tears, as well as the friend who was desperately shouting the name of the female university student. Many gossipy women in their 50s or 60s in Wuzhen were standing on the side, watching the show and pointing. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were watching a show. This group of gossipy women had no intention of rushing up to save her. But some of the men around had already taken measures to save her. There were also some people below, who helped to persuade the female university student who wanted to jump off the cliff. It's dirty. I don't want to live anymore, it's dirty. The female university student standing on the cliff kept shaking her head, and muttering these words. The bystanders couldn't understand what the female university student was saying, and thought that she was crazy. She actually wanted to jump off the cliff. Yunjian, who happened to be passing by, narrowed her eyes. If she guessed correctly, this female university student was the one who was defiled by the two old ruffians. Some people valued their chastity. If they lost their chastity, they would rather die. But some people thought that life was more important, and chastity was nothing. Everyone had their own aspirations, just like how radishes and vegetables each had their own preferences. Everyone's mentality was different. But since she was standing on the cliff, this female university student must be someone who valued her chastity very much. She did not jump, of course, because she was afraid and did not want to die. Could she be? Liang Xiumin suddenly saw the female university student standing on the cliff. Thinking back to the two old ruffians she met just now, she fiercely trembled. This female university student must be the one who was defiled by the two old ruffians. Otherwise, Why would a perfectly good girl want to commit suicide? And it was so good that she chose to commit suicide at this time. Seeing this scene, Liang Xiumin suddenly felt that Yun Jian's way of dealing with the two old ruffians was not too ruthless. She was hurt to the point of wanting to commit suicide. Those two old ruffians deserve to die. What should we do, Yun Jian? Liang Xiumin was a little scared and did not dare to look at the cliff. She was afraid that the female university student would really jump off like this. Let's go. Yun Jian's indifferent voice sounded, and then she had already walked away. Ah. Liang Xiumin was stunned. Isn't it too immoral to turn a blind eye? Shall we go over and help? Obviously, Mu Xiao was not very satisfied with Yun Jian's current performance. Unexpectedly, just as Mu Ming finished speaking, Yun Jian's voice rang out. If she wants to die, no one can save her for the rest of her life. Even if he was saved this time, what about the next time? What about the next time? Yun Jian's words stunned Mu Xiao. After recovering from the shock, Mu Xiao lowered her eyes and did not speak again. After that, Mu Xiao and Liang Xiumin followed Yun Jian back to Wuxia Primary School. The moment they were about to enter the school, Yun Jian suddenly spoke, leaving behind a sentence that made Mu Yu and Liang Xiumin feel relieved for some reason. She doesn't know how to jump. Wuxia Primary School. The students were still in school. In the dilapidated field, a large group of girls sat together to listen to Shen Qingjiang's bragging. Ever since he successfully stole something from New Cruz, Shen Qingjiang felt more and more that he was suited to be a master thief. At this moment, Shen Qingjiang was showing off his ability to steal in front of the girls. Obviously, the girl who jumped off the cliff was not with Shen Qingjiang's group. Come. Have you hidden the coins properly? It's time for me to show off my amazing stealing skills. Shen Qingjiang rubbed his hands. A smug expression appeared on his not-so-handsome face. The girls could not wait any longer, and all of them responded. Good. Next, put your hands on top of mine. I'll steal the coins from you in the shortest time possible. As Shen Qingjiang spoke, the girls placed their hands on Shen Qingjiang's hands without any warning, as though they had heard a cult. Meanwhile, Yun Jian and the other two had just walked past Shen Qingjiang's group. On the other side, Shen Qingjiang took the opportunity to secretly touch the hands of this group of silly girls a few times. His other hand, on the other hand, quickly and skillfully, secretly took out coins from the girls' pockets. About 2 minutes later, Shen Qingjiang, who had finally found all the coins on the girls, shouted, "All right. I bet you guys didn't notice that the coins are on me." After saying this, Shen Qingjiang spread out his hand, wanting to show the coin to the girls, causing them to scream. When he opened his hands, the coins were gone. How could they be gone? That's impossible. Absolutely impossible. The coins were behind me just now. How could it be? Shen Qingjiang shook his head absent-mindedly. It was then that Yun Jian, who had walked 5 meters away, turned around under Mu Xiao and Liang Xiumin's bewildered gazes. She stretched out her hand and scattered the handful of coins on the ground in front of everyone. She smirked. Is this what you're looking for? When did you take the coins? Why are they with you? Shen Qingjiang's expression changed drastically. I'm the disciple of the international master thief, Lam. If you stole something from me, I'd definitely feel it. How could this be? Shen Qingjiang revealed his secret in his nervousness. Hearing Shen Qingjiang's words, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. Lam from the fox hunting organization? In the next second, Yun Jian's beautiful voice resounded through the whole place. The fox hunting organization was the biggest international master thief organization. How did you know? Shen Qingjiang was shocked again. Then he frowned and said, Since you know how powerful my master is, how dare you? This was already his biggest secret. He had never told anyone. How did she know? However, as soon as Shen Qingjiang finished speaking, an even more shocking scene unfolded before everyone's eyes. In the next breath, Yun Jian, who was standing on the other side, suddenly curled her lips into a red arc. Her cool expression coupled with her melodious voice spoke arrogantly to Shen Qingjiang, surprising everyone there. You're right. There's no one in the world that I, Yun Jian, don't know. Not to mention Lam, the master thief of the fox hunting organization. Even the boss of the fox hunting organization has to kneel in front of me. Your master is just a member of the fox hunting organization. Why wouldn't I dare? Chapter 2067. Since Shen Qingjiang claimed to be Lam's subordinate, he must have heard of the fox hunting organization from Lam. Although the fox hunting organization was an organization, it was different from the Hun organization and the kosher mercenaries. The fox hunting organization only accepted things that their employers wanted to steal or treasures that they wanted to find. Other than that, they never accepted missions like killing people. Obviously, at this moment, other than Shen Qingjiang, who was half in the circle, the girls around Shen Qingjiang, Senior Mu Yong, and Liang Xiumin didn't understand the meaning of Yun Jian's words. But the people around them weren't stupid. Although they couldn't understand the meaning of Yun Jian's words, they could still roughly understand what Yun Jian meant. What she meant was, not to mention Shen Qingjiang's master. Even the boss of Shen Qingjiang's master's organization had to kneel down when he saw Yun Jian. Was she even an international person? If that was the case, then who was she? She actually had such an ability. Compared to the others, Shen Qingjiang's face had gone from being rosy at the beginning to pale and lifeless at this moment. He always thought that his master, Lam, was his biggest trump card. It was also because of this that Shen Qingjiang didn't brag about his master, even though he had bragged to the outside world. This was because Shen Qingjiang felt that the trump card and the killer move had to be taken out at the last moment. Only then would it be enough to make people go crazy. But Shen Qingjiang never thought that his trump card, his biggest trump card, would be hit by Yun Jian's words. Even his biggest trump card, Lam's boss, was defeated by Yun Jian. Plus, when he came here, Yun Jian's behavior on the bus. At this moment, Shen Qingjiang didn't dare to treat Yun Jian as an ordinary female university student anymore. How do you know everything? You know that my master, Lam, is from the fox hunting organization. Could it be that you also know the fox hunting organization's master? But even so, Shen Qingjiang didn't dare to think highly of Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian and said in a daze, could it be that Yun Jian was also a disciple of a godly thief in the fox hunting organization? So, she was able to steal the coins that he stole from the girls without him noticing at all. Shen Qingjiang found it inconceivable. It was only by chance that he managed to become the disciple of god thief Ram. He had originally thought that this was his own capital. But Shen Qingjiang never thought that there was actually a girl who had also worshipped the thief god as her master. Moreover, the other party's standard was even higher than his. Although Shen Qingjiang was very unhappy, after knowing the so-called truth, he tried to please Yun Jian. It was my fault before. I had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. May I ask, according to seniority, are you my junior sister or senior sister? Also junior sister, who is your master? Do you know my master? Not to mention other things, Shen Qingjiang thought that Yun Jian was also a disciple of a master thief in the fox hunting organization. Therefore, when Shen Qingjiang spoke, there was a hint of flattery in his tone as if he was talking to a family member. Of course, this made Shen Qingjiang even more proud. At the same time, Shen Qingjiang even heard the girls around him boasting about him with even more exaggerated words. However, just as Shen Qingjiang was enjoying this feeling, Yun Jian's words were arrogant and brash. Her arrogance carried an absolute aura, as well as a sense of awe that made people have no choice but to submit to her. She said word by word to Shen Qingjiang, who was in a fantasy in front of everyone. How can a small fox hunting organization trap me? If I want, I can take over the fox hunting organization at any time. Rum was blind to take you in. But it doesn't matter, I will make him cut ties with you. You want to have a relationship with the fox hunting organization? You are not worthy. Chapter 2068. After all, the fox hunting organization was the largest organization of thieves in the world. Moreover, there were at least 1,000 thieves in the fox hunting organization. Every single one of them was the cream of the crop in the world of thieves. Yun Jian could recite the information of anyone who had some international reputation. Shen Qingjiang's master, the man named Lam, was actually at the bottom of the hierarchy in the fox hunting organization. Otherwise, the real top figures in the fox hunting organization would never have taken someone like Shen Qingjiang as their disciple. Yun Jian's words were like the worst nightmare in Shen Qingjiang's ears. To Shen Qingjiang, having his master as the master thief of the fox hunting organization, Lam, was the most honorable thing for Shen Qingjiang. Shen Qingjiang didn't even hesitate to hide this layer of his identity. He wanted to wait for the right time to reveal this layer of his identity and surprise the group of girls around him. Then their impression of him would rise sharply. However, Shen Qingjiang had never expected Yun Jian to appear. Judging from Yun Jian's tone, could she be even more powerful than the fox hunting organization? Who the hell are you? Shen Qingjiang looked at Yun Jian and asked in a daze. The more he wanted to know about Yun Jian's identity, the more he wanted to understand it. If she was not a master thief, why did she have such frightening skills? Liang Xiaomin had naturally heard her father mention Yun Jian's identity as an advanced special forces soldier. Liang Xiaomin did not say a word at this moment. She hugged the quilts and stood where she was, waiting for Yun Jian. A trace of doubt flashed across Mu Yu's eyes, but she did not say anything. When Shen Qingjiang asked the last question, Yun Jian had already turned and walked toward Liang Xiaomin. Halfway there, she stopped and turned sideways, exposing her beautiful side profile to Shen Qingjiang and the group of girls standing beside her. The red arc of her lips curved slightly. The next second, she gave a mesmerizing smile and said, "I'm the owner of the sports car design you stole." It was hard to tell what she meant at first, but if one thought about it carefully, they would be horrified. "I stole that design from New Cruise, so its owner should be the director of New Cruise. Could she be? She's the director of New Cruise." Shen Qingjiang thought about it carefully and finally guessed this. He shouted these words in front of the group of female students around him in horror. When he lifted his head to look for Yun Jian, Liang Xiaomin and Mu Yu, he realized that Yun Jian and the other two were long gone. In the field of Wuxia Primary School, Shen Qingjiang, who had lost all his face but was in a mess at the moment, as well as the doubtful female students, were left dumbfounded. At that moment, Yun Jian's group, Yun Jian's, and the girls' class. The classroom here was very shabby. The classroom was also a mud house built with simple mud. The door of the classroom was a wooden door that had not been painted. The tables and benches were broken, making creaking noises when one sat on them or placed their hands on them. Just the sight of it was enough to scare one. It was a miracle that one did not fall off from sitting on the benches. There was not much light in the class, but the children were studying seriously. They did not even notice Yun Jian's group entering the class. Luing was skinny and not tall. She sat in the front row. She was an 11-year-old child, but due to her stunted growth, she looked like an 8 or 9-year-old. Her thin clothes covered her body, and the cold wind that blew into the room from outside the window made her shiver from the cold. Chapter 2069. Of course, Luing was not the only child who was shivering from the cold. A large group of children in the classroom were all wearing thin clothes, huddling in the thin clothes that could not even keep them warm. At that moment, every child maintained the same action, which was to flip through the colorful textbooks under their hands, unwilling to let go. These textbooks were bought from a donation program organized by a few universities in Jiang City and brought to the poor mountainous area of Wuxia as a gift for these poor children. The children had never seen such colorful textbooks before, and were so excited that they did not even want to raise their heads. "It's the big sister and big brother who gave us the colorful textbooks." Yun Jian had just walked into the classroom. Even the teacher standing on the podium did not notice her and Liang Xiaomin's arrival. A mischievous little boy suddenly shouted. Then, the children sitting in the classroom saw this and carefully took out their folded paper from their drawers, running towards Yun Jian and the other two. "Thank you, big sister and big brother, for the colorful textbooks. We really like them, but we don't have anything to give them to big sister and big brother, so we folded them ourselves. We hope you like them." A cute little girl stretched out her dirty little hands, holding a folded paper crane with both hands, and handed it to Yunjian. In her clear eyes, there was an innocence that the children in the city would never have. The little girl's hands were dirty, and there was a stench on her body, as if she had not bathed in a long time. But Yunjian did not say anything and took the paper crane from the little girl, giving the little girl a smile. "Thank you." The paper crane was very light, and the origami was very tattered. It was obvious that the little girl had hidden this origami for a long time, folding and unfolding it again and again. Now the little girl had given her favorite treasure to her. "It's good that big sister likes it." The little girl stuck out her tongue playfully. These children used origami to fold many animals and gave them to Yunjian, Liang Xiumin, and Muyu. Although the things were small and did not have much value, they were mixed with the children's thoughts. This was the closest and most authentic gift that the children from the countryside could give, and money could not buy. They might not have the money to return better gifts, but the children's gifts were one of a kind. "Children, there are many big brothers and sisters over there. Give them all the origami you worked so hard to make last class." At this time, the teacher saw Shen Qingjiang and many university students from the city standing on the field through the window. The only female teacher other than the principal gestured to the children. "Presents for big brother and big sister." All the children ran happily to the playground. "Big sister, come with us." The little girl who gave Yunjian the paper crane just now pulled Yunjian's hand and ran towards the sports field. Seeing this, Liang Xiumin and Muyu followed Yunjian. At that time, some children had already found their big brothers and sisters who hadn't received any gifts and gave them the hand-folded paper that they had painstakingly cut. The university students who came from the city to teach took the origami paper that the children had cut with great difficulty. This was a beautiful scene. Even Yunjian could not help but smile. She had never known that in a place so poor that even food and clothing were a problem, there was such a group of kind and innocent children. Children might live in the lowest level of the world and not be liked, but they had the innocence and kindness that ordinary children did not have. Liang Xiumin was touched. The high and mighty young miss didn't think it was dirty or ugly. She took the paper cut from a child. "What the hell is this? It's so ugly. Don't touch my hands with your dirty hands. How long has it been since you took a shower? It stinks, it stinks. Get out of my way. I don't want this cheap product." A shout of abuse sounded. On the other side, an elegant and beautiful girl with a slender figure was standing there. She scolded the child who handed her the origami paper, then avoided the child with clear eyes and a face full of anticipation as if avoiding the plague. The girl who scolded the child was none other than Wu Zhizhi, who had scolded Yunjian when Yunjian asked Shen Qingjiang for the design on the bus. Chapter 2070. Wu Zhizhi looked at the child's outstretched hand as if she had seen a river beast. However, unlike the river beast, Wu Zhizhi scolded and retreated in disgust. The child, who had reached out to Wu Zhizhi and wanted to hand her the folded paper that she had painstakingly cut, only to be treated like this by Wu Zhizhi. She froze in the same position as when she reached out her hand to hand over the folded paper. Like the other children, this child was dirty and looked like he had not bathed in a long time. Wuzhen was not a coastal area and water was scarce. No family dared to bathe in a basin full of water. In that case, it wouldn't be a problem of cleanliness anymore. Even whether they would starve to death or die of thirst would become a problem. Therefore, the children here would at most use a small handful of water to wipe their bodies during the festival. They did not dare to use it too much. The other university students who came with Yunjian would not say such things in front of the child, even if they despised the child for being dirty and smelly. Did Liang Xiumin not despise it? Liang Xiumin, who had been spoiled since she was young, despised it more than anyone else. However, she would not say such things in front of the child. She would not hurt the child's young heart in such a cruel way. After Wu Zhizhi's heartless words left her mouth, everyone around her was stunned. The child was also stunned. "Wu Zhizhi, what are you saying? How can you say such things in front of such a young child?" Even a girl who came with Wu Zhizhi could not stand it anymore and started to criticize Wu Zhizhi. However, before the girl could finish speaking, Wuxia spoke first. I didn't say anything that I shouldn't say. Am I not telling the truth? Moreover, my father is the richest man in Jiangcheng. If you let me come into contact with these filthy people, what should I do if I get a disease? My father reminded me before we came. A rich young lady like me won't stoop to your level. I have to protect myself. As Wu Zhizhi spoke, she raised her head proudly and talked in a circle in front of Yun Jian. In fact, Wu Zhizhi was already displeased with Yun Jian when they were on the bus. Shen Qingjiang's boasting made Wu Zhizhi deeply believe in the cult. She believed everything he said. Yun Jian had treated Shen Qingjiang like that just now. Wu Zhizhi had long wanted to find an opportunity to make it difficult for Yun Jian. Even saying those cruel words to the child just now was just to draw out the following words. When Yun Jian heard that her father was the richest man in Jiang City, she seemed to blink her eyes. Wu Zhizhi thought that Yun Jian was shocked by her family's wealth. Thinking of this, Wu Zhizhi became even more smug. She raised her head and looked sideways at Yun Jian, then continued to speak to everyone with a smug expression. Before I came here, my dad donated 100,000 yuan to your poor mountainous area. I didn't do anything wrong. Logically speaking, you Wuxian people should be the ones to treat me well. After all, my dad donated so much money. I stayed the night yesterday. Not only was the accommodation terrible, even the food was so bad that I couldn't swallow it. Wu Zhizhi's words seemed to imply that since her dad had donated so much money, the people of Wuxian had to treat her differently from other university students. At this point, the people around them fell silent. The child who was rejected by Wu Zhizhi seemed to be frightened. He did not dare to speak for a long time. Then Wu Zhizhi looked sideways at Yun Jian and said, "You were so smug in front of us just now. If you're so capable, why are you still pretending to be the director of New Cruise? How much did you donate when the school organized the donation back then?" Yun Jian was not in the school when the donation was organized. "I didn't donate." Yun Jian was not afraid and replied directly. "Oh ha ha ha. You even made me think that you're the director of New Cruise. What a joke. Qingjiang, did you see that? She was just trying to scare us." So King shameless. Wu Zhizhi became even more smug after hearing that. The people around them did not dare to say anything. Even the female teacher from Wuxian looked embarrassed. However, just as Wu Zhizhi thought that she was invincible, she saw Yun Jian take out her phone from her pocket in front of everyone. Wu Zhizhi was stunned. Yun Jian, who was standing in front of Wu Zhizhi, smiled and said, "Thanks for the reminder. I wasn't in the school when the donation was made." It was clearly a thank you, but Wu Zhizhi shuddered after hearing it. Instantly, Yun Jian's smile faded. She dialed a number expressionlessly in front of everyone. Before the call was connected, she continued to speak to Wu Zhizhi. "However, your father is the richest man in Jiangcheng. Donating a mere 100,000 yuan is too petty." Just as she finished speaking, Yun Jian's call was connected. Then, in front of Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and everyone else, Yun Jian spoke to the person on the other end of the phone. Her cold but commanding words echoed throughout the hall, indirectly giving Wu Zhizhi a loud slap. "Zhang Zhifan, in 3 days, donate 1 billion yuan to Xixiang organization in my name as the director of New Cruise, and send it to the poor mountainous areas." A. Chapter 2071. Without waiting for a reply, Yun Jian hung up and put her phone back into her pocket. It was as if nothing had happened. However, everyone's expression changed drastically at Yun Jian's words. Especially Wu Zhizhi, who had purposely picked on Yun Jian earlier. After hearing what Yun Jian said, Wu Zhizhi's expression changed from its initial arrogance to its darkest point. "Why, you're really New Cruise's D-director?" The exclamation did not come from Wu Zhizhi's mouth. Wu Zhizhi was so shocked that she could not speak. How would she dare to speak? The person who spoke was none other than Shen Qingjiang. Did that mean that Yun Jian had heard him stealing something from New Cruise? Was that why she had attacked him? Shen Qingjiang was both afraid and terrified. He suddenly recalled that if Yun Jian was New Cruise's director, based on the company's current development, It was not unbelievable that his master's fox hunting organization would give her face. However, was Yunjian really New Cruise's director? Wu Zhizhi couldn't say a word for a long time. Finally, when she saw that everyone was staring at her, she stammered. You. Look. What are you looking at? She said she's New Cruise's director, so be it. There's no signal here. Maybe she made a fake call just now. After saying that, Wu Zhizhi came to her senses. That was right. There was no signal in Wuzhen. Yunjian's call just now must have been an act. Wu Zhizhi's confidence grew as she thought about that. She lifted her head again to look at Yunjian and swore. I was wondering why you hung up after saying that. It must be because you didn't make the call. If you call without signal, the other party won't even pick up. Ha ha. How dare you pretend to be New Cruise's director? What a joke. Wu Zhizhi's voice grew louder and louder. However, the moment Wu Zhizhi finished speaking, the only female teacher in Wuzhen Primary School, other than the principal, pursed her lips and added, There's basically no signal in Wuzhen, but there's a small shop next to Wuzhen Primary School. There's a phone installed in that shop. That's the only phone in Wuzhen, so when the school has good signal, you can make calls from here. The female teacher's words made Wu Zhizhi, who had thought that what she said made sense, instantly shut her mouth. When you came over this morning, the principal told me to remember to tell you about this, but I forgot to tell you. Student, I didn't say anything about this. How did you know that there was a signal here? As the female teacher spoke, she turned to look at Yunjian and asked. A normal person would not try every place after coming to Wuzhen the day before. Since there was no signal, they would not try everywhere. After all, mobile phones in this era were not smartphones. There were not many fun games. At most, one could make a call. There was no difference whether there was a signal or not. If it was smartphones nowadays, people would definitely run to Wu Town to ask if there was any signal. Even if there was no signal in every place, they would still try it. After hearing the female teacher's words, everyone turned to look at Yunjian. Yunjian, who stood where she was, narrowed her eyes and gave a half-smile before she spoke up. Of course I saw the phone in the small shop near the school. If there was no signal, the phone wouldn't be placed at the counter. Since it was placed at the most obvious counter, it must be to attract customers to make calls there. Of course, there would be a signal. Chapter 2072. Yunjian's words were very logical. Actually, many people could analyze it, but no one was as observant as Yunjian. Take Wu Zhizhi for example. She had been acting like a spoiled brat since the beginning. Whenever she caught something that she thought made sense, she would assume that she was right. She had no ability to analyze logically at all. People like her would usually be in the worst situation after the truth was revealed. As expected, after the female teacher and Yunjian finished speaking, Wu Zhizhi could not say anything else. 3 days. Let's wait and see. I'd like to see if the people from New Cruise will come with 1 billion. She knew it was impossible even if she thought about it. 1 billion. That was not a small number. Even if it was a huge international corporation like New Cruise that stood on the international stage, it was almost impossible for them to fork out 1 billion yuan. 1 billion yuan was on a completely different level compared to the 100,000 yuan that her family could fork out. Could Yunjian really do that? After Wu Zhizhi said that to Yunjian, she was too embarrassed to stay there any longer. Therefore, she turned around to call her friend, Kai Xingyuan, who was so fat that her body would jiggle with every few steps she took. She left the place pathetically. After Wu Zhizhi and her friend fled, Shen Qingjiang also left with the group of girls in a panic. It was only when the group was far away that Liang Xiumin looked at Yunjian and exclaimed excitedly, Yunjian, you were so cool just now. Huh, didn't you see how green that girl's face was? I've never seen a rich girl who likes to throw a tantrum more than I do. I just can't stand her. That felt good. That felt so good. Liang Xiumin almost clapped and cheered as she spoke. On the other hand, Mu Yu was very rational. He pursed his lips and tilted his head to look at Liang Xiumin. He then turned to Yunjian and said, You really pissed them off just now. I agree that you should take them down a notch. How dare you say something like that in front of children? But can you really get New Cruise to donate 1 billion yuan to the children in the poor mountainous areas? Are you really the director of New Cruise? Clearly, no matter how vivid Yun Jian's story was, no one would believe it without evidence. After all, this was too unreasonable. Hearing this, Liang Xiumin also turned to look at Yun Jian, only to see Yun Jian, who was standing in front of them, squinting slightly and saying, "Take a guess." The people who were born and raised in Wuxian had never left the mountains. Even the female teacher, who had been teaching in Wuxian for many years, had been isolated from the world for many years. Therefore, they had no idea what New Cruise was. The children didn't know how much 1 billion was either. The children here generally learn slower than the children in the city. Without the guidance of a master teacher, no matter how hard they worked, they couldn't compare to the children in the city. "Big sister, can I take you to herd the lambs after school? Big sister is so pretty, the lambs will definitely like you very much." The child, who had just been scolded by Wu Zhizhi in that tone, walked to Yun Jian shakily and said to Yun Jian. She was a very cute little girl, but because she hadn't bathed for a long time, she reeked of sweat and her face and hands were dirty. After being scolded by Wu Zhizhi, the little girl dared not touch Yun Jian's hand, afraid that Yun Jian would despise her too. "Then it's a deal. You'll take us to herd the lambs after school." Before Yun Jian could reply, Liang Xiumin responded to the cute little girl first. Liang Xiumin was stunned when she saw that everyone was looking at her. She then coughed twice and looked to the side. She said something that didn't match her heart. "I'm sorry. Ahem. I'm not the one who wants to herd the lambs with you. I saw that you wanted Yun Jian to go, so I agreed on Yun Jian's behalf. I'm just going to check it out along the way." This young lady's arrogance was unparalleled. When the children heard Liang Xiumin's words, they all giggled. What are you laughing at?" Liang Xiumin's face was stiff, but she didn't look fierce at all. "Big sister, you're much cuter than those sisters who left just now." A naughty little boy put his hands around his mouth and shouted loudly. The scene was peaceful. The little girl who had invited Yun Jian to herd the lambs was called Xingzi by everyone. This naughty little boy was called He Qifang. The group of children immediately started playing with Liang Xiumin. Liang Xiumin's arrogant temper was completely worn out. At 3:30 in the afternoon, after the children had finished school, Yun Jian, the group of children, and Liang Xiumin were walking to a place where they grazed the lambs. In the end, one of the children forgot to bring home the textbook for homework. It was too slow for the child to go back and get it, and it was too dangerous for him to walk alone. Yun Jian let the group go to the hill where the lambs were grazed first, and she rushed back to school to get it. Just as she arrived at the child's classroom, she suddenly heard two strange voices. "Ah, it's here. We won't be discovered here, right? Gentler, Qingjiang, it's so comfortable." This was a woman's voice. "Everyone's gone. It's so exciting to do it in the classroom. Dambi *tch, come out." This was a man's voice. Hearing this, Yun Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. TSK, she didn't need to look to know that the owners of these two voices were Wu Zhizhi and Shen Qingjiang. Chapter 2073. Shen Qingjiang used these vulgar words to shout at Wu Zhizhi, and even used his hand to smack Wu Zhizhi's but a few times. That strength, it did not seem like he was flirting, but more like he was hitting someone. But Yun Jian did not see any of this. When she heard the commotion, she walked into the other classroom where Shen Qingjiang and Wu Zhizhi were having an affair. She took the child's textbook from the classroom and left the school. Yun Jian did not have the hobby of stealing other people's affairs. Yun Jian quickly caught up with the group of children. The sun had set, and on the not-too-steep hill, the children were herding the sheep, letting Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin touch the newborn lambs. They were all so happy that they did not want to go home. "Sister, look, the lambs love you." Xingzi squatted in front of Yun Jian and Liang Xiumin, holding a lamb in her arms, and said with a smile. On that dirty face, there was the innocence of a child. The lamb was not an adult, but a newborn lamb that could already walk. It also had the appearance of an adult lamb, but it was small and cute. Bah, The lamb turned its head like a chicken pecking at rice to Yunjian and bleated. On this hill, there were people herding cows and sheep, and a large group of ducks and chickens running around chasing each other. Although it was noisy, Yunjian felt a sense of tranquility. That was a sense of tranquility in the heart. Sister, do you want to hold the lamb? Xingzi asked as she looked at Yunjian with her large black eyes, holding the lamb in her arms. Yunjian nodded. Xingzi passed the lamb into Yunjian's arms. The lamb was very obedient, and stayed in Yunjian's arms without making a sound or moving. It was very obedient. Sister, look, this lamb loves you so much. Xingzi shouted happily, as if she had discovered a new world. Evening passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, the sky was about to turn dark. Everyone returned to Wuxia the way they came, and then took a detour to go home. Do you have any dreams? Yunjian suddenly asked. She still had a long way to go. She still had to deal with the mysterious man and the reverse emperor organization. He couldn't stop leading the kosher mercenaries forward, or there would be thousands of reverse emperors rising in the future. Then what about this group of innocent children? What were their dreams? Xingzi, He Qifeng, Luing, and the other children were silent for a while. In the next second, the group of children spoke resolutely one after another. Our dream is to leave the mountains. That's right. The teacher said that as long as you study hard, you will be able to walk out of the mountain. I want to see the outside world. He wanted to see the outside world. After the last child finished speaking, everyone fell silent. It was such a small wish, but for these children, it was harder than ascending to the heavens. They did not have great ambitions. Their only wish was to walk out of the mountains and see the outside world. At this moment, Yunjian didn't know what to say. Perhaps some people would say that she had the ability to let these children see the outside world. But Yunjian wouldn't do that. The outside world was not as beautiful as the children imagined. The children would understand when they left the mountains with their own strength. If they couldn't leave the mountains with their own strength, it would be better for them to keep their innocent hearts forever. When they came down from the mountains, there was still a trace of afterglow in the sky. The dim orange afterglow reflected on the clouds. It was very beautiful. Hey, that's... As soon as they came down from the mountains, Wuyu saw a girl sitting on the stairs. The girl was surrounded by a group of people, and she was talking about something. The girl was leaning on another girl's shoulder, and tears were flowing down her face. It's the girl who tried to jump off the cliff just now. Yunjian walked past Muyu and Liang Xiumin and said, You're right. She wouldn't jump off the cliff. How did you know? Muyu was surprised for a moment. Yunjian, who was walking in front of them, turned her head sideways and said something that Muyu didn't understand. Her eyes can tell me everything I want to know. Chapter 2074. Her words lagged behind for a long time. It turned out that Mu Xiao couldn't figure out the meaning of Yunjian's words even after thinking for a long time. In the end, she couldn't figure it out and simply stopped thinking about it. Yunjian didn't know whether the two old ruffians were dead or not. In the next 2 days, Yunjian and the other college students began to teach the children officially. Before that, it was worth mentioning that the quilts that Yunjian and Liang Xiumin bought for Luing and Lu Shijia scared them. Since their mother left, there was no money left to change the quilts at home. Therefore, the quilts that Yunjian and Liang Xiumin used to cover them were dirty and smelly. After Lu Ying and Lu Shijia came to their senses, they were so grateful to Yunjian and Liang Xiumin that they shed tears. In the end, they were amused by Liang Xiumin, who didn't know how to speak, and laughed through their tears. What are you crying for? A few quilts made you cry like this. I'll buy 100 quilts tomorrow and teach you how to cry. In the next 2 days, Yunjian didn't teach anything. She just followed the children. This volunteer teaching activity in the countryside was organized by Jiangqing Normal University. To put it bluntly, Yunjian and the others came to experience the atmosphere of the poor mountainous area. The college students of Normal University would be teachers in the future. Therefore, they came here to experience the feeling of being a teacher in advance. As for Yunjian and the other students from other schools, they were considered as substitutes. After all, although Yun Jian and the others were not students of normal university, they all had good grades. That was why they could come here. Of course, Liang Xiaomin was not included. It was 3:30 in the afternoon. Yun Jian had just eaten an orange given by a child who said that it was grown at home. It was sweet and delicious. After eating the orange, her hands were sticky, so Yun Jian went out of the classroom to wash her hands. On the way back, she heard the principal of Wuxia Primary School say to the only female teacher in Wuxia Primary School. The 4, 6, and 6 years old children were brought to the outdoor class by the college students? When the principal asked, the female teacher answered honestly, "Yes, principal." "Then you have to follow them and keep an eye on them. I heard that there are often cases of children being kidnapped in broad daylight in the nearby towns. Many children have gone missing. Hurry up and go outside to look after the children. Our Wu town has no law and order to begin with. Human traffickers always pick places like ours to attack. There are security guards in the big city. Hurry up and follow them outside," the principal instructed. But everything the principal said was for the sake of the children. "Yes, principal, I'll go right away." The female teacher hurriedly ran out. Yun Jian had just walked past the principal and the female teacher. There were 2 classes in Wuxia. The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders were in one class, while the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders were in another class. Luing was in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. Last time, the ones who brought Yun Jian, Liang Xiaomin, and the others to herd the sheep on the mountain were the students in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. Yun Jian had just passed by the principal and the female teachers when she was stopped by the elegant and beautiful Wu Zhizhi with a sneer on her face. "Today's the 3rd day. You said you wanted New Cruise to donate 1 billion RMB. It's almost evening now. Where are the people from New Cruise?" Wu Zhizhi was all smiles as if she could already see Yun Jian making a fool of herself. "Today's not over yet," Yun Jian replied. After that, she walked past Wu Zhizhi and headed inside. However, just as she was about to enter the classroom, a female teacher who had rushed back from afar cried out at the entrance, "Oh no! The children! The children have really been kidnapped. Principal, 5 of our children have been kidnapped into a black van. Hurry up and get the people in town to save them." Just as the female teacher found the children, she saw a group of masked people dragging the children into a black van. The female teacher tried to stop them but was punched. Ignoring the pain, she ran back and yelled for help. Just as she reached Yun Jian's side, Yun Jian's eyes flickered. She grabbed the female teacher. "What's going on? The children have been kidnapped by a group of people. What should we do? What should we do?" The female teacher was so flustered that her face turned pale. She did not even notice that she was holding a card written in blood. Yun Jian took the card from the female teacher right in front of the smug Wu Zhizhi. There were 2 words written in fresh blood on the card, "Reverse Emperor." Seeing that, Yun Jian's eyes darkened. She was as cold as ice in February. In front of Wu Zhizhi and the female teacher, she spoke calmly as usual. "They've been kidnapped by the assassin organization. You won't be able to catch up to them." Chapter 2075. The name, Reverse Emperor, on the card was enough to prove that the kidnapper was from Reverse Emperor. As for the female teacher and the principal, even if they gathered everyone in Wu Town, they wouldn't be able to catch up to Reverse Emperor's black van. After all, Reverse Emperor was an assassin organization that was only second to the Kosha mercenaries and Hun. They even dared to declare war against the Kosha mercenaries and Hun. After Reverse Emperor went out on a mission, they would leave a card written in blood. At the bottom of the card, there would be a small line of words. That small line of words was the code name of the assassin or agent who went out on a mission. As expected, Yun Jian found a small line of words on the card. There were only 3 words on the card: African leopard. The kidnapper is the 5th-ranked assassin in the international assassin ranking, African leopard. Before the female teacher and Wu Zhizhi could react, Yun Jian raised her head to look at them. Yun Jian added, "You won't be able to catch up to them. Even if you do, you will be killed immediately." What Yunjian was doubtful about was why Reverse Emperor would send such a character to a poor mountainous area like Wu Town to kidnap people. However, when she saw the words African leopard on the card, all her doubts were cleared. Their target is me, Yunjian said as she walked towards the classroom. Wait. What are you talking about? You were the chairman of New Crews before, and now you're talking about some assassin organization. Are you messing with us? Let me tell you, you can't be so selfish. Now that the children are kidnapped, you're still not letting the people in Wuxian rescue them? You're doing this on purpose. Why are you so involved in this? Seizing the chance to accuse Yunjian, Wu Zhizhi rambled on incessantly. When she saw that Yunjian was walking towards the classroom, she screamed even louder. She even tried to pounce on Yunjian, as if she was going to stop Yunjian from leaving. When the female teacher heard Yunjian's words, she was stunned, but she still ran to find him. Ever since the female teacher's terrified voice had been heard, the surrounding people had been drawn over. At this moment, the dozens of university students who came from the university town of Jiang City to teach in Wuxian were all near Wuxian Primary School. When they heard the commotion, they all ran over. I think you're the one who wants to kill the child. Not allowed to save people? How can someone like you be the chairman of New Crews? What a joke! Wu Zhizhi said, and was about to pounce on Yunjian to stop her from leaving. However, Yunjian dodged Wu Zhizhi's attempt to pounce on her from behind, and walked into the classroom in a few steps. Principal, let's call for help to save the children. If the children are taken away, it's my responsibility. Save the children. Save the child. The female teacher had already called the principal out. The two of them were about to rush out of Wuxian Primary School. The female teacher was trembling violently, and the principal was in shock as well. However, he could not give up. He still had to save the children. What's going on? Shin Qingjiang, Liang Xiumin, Mu Yao, and the rest had no idea what was going on. However, the university students who heard the commotion could roughly guess what was going on. The children had been kidnapped. However, just as the principal and the female teacher were about to step out of the small Wuxian primary school, Yunjian came out of the classroom with her backpack in one hand. When she was in the classroom earlier, she had used her fastest speed to hide all sorts of blades, knives, and daggers from her backpack in various places on her body. The African leopard, ranked 5th on the international assassin ranking, was known for his speed. Yunjian was strong and her biggest chance of winning was her speed. It was not that Yunjian was not as fast as the African leopard, but to go up against someone like the African leopard who was not weak, she had to be fully equipped with all the secret weapons of a secret agent. Only then would she have a higher chance of winning. At this moment, Yunjian had already hidden all sorts of killing weapons all over her body without leaving a trace. At this moment, Yunjian was holding her backpack in her left hand. In front of all the university students, the principal, and the female teacher who saw her come out of the classroom, her right hand took out the latest SIGP 2106 Swiss silver pistol from her backpack. After that, she threw her backpack on the ground and put the latest model SIGP 2106 silver handgun into the holster at her waist without even looking at it. Her other hand held the last 2 butterfly knives tightly at the base of her thighs and pulled down her shirt. After she pulled down her shirt, in the eyes of outsiders, it was as if Yunjian did not hide any weapons on her body. No one could see any traces of weapons on her body. At this moment, Yunjian was carrying out a series of actions of a secret agent equipping weapons as she walked towards the principal and the female teacher. The speed of equipping weapons was many times faster and more accurate than the secret agents in the movies. Coupled with her indifferent expression, everyone present was stunned on the spot. For a moment just now, they seemed to have seen the king of hell who had survived among the corpses. However, before everyone present could react to Yunjian's actions, they heard Yunjian's indifferent words, which were like the master of the secret agent world, resounding through the classroom. In the next second, everyone present was dumbfounded and terrified. I said that group of people's target is me. If you go, you will be courting death. The world of assassins and secret agents does not need you irrelevant people to participate. I will definitely bring him back. How dare you openly provoke me and kidnap someone under my nose? Even if he is the 5th on the international assassin ranking, he is now a member of the Grim Reaper's list. A. Chapter 2076. Yin Jian's words were like the melodious chirping of a lark. Her words were clear and entered everyone's ears without missing a single word. Everyone present was shocked and terrified. African leopard, ranked 5th on the international assassin chart. Who was that? Mu Yao frowned and stared at Yin Jian with Liang Xiumin. Her eyes widened as she asked, "What exactly happened? What exactly happened? Why did it involve assassins and secret agents? Who was this African leopard, ranked 5th on the international assassin chart? Hurry up. Principal, hurry up and call for help. Those 5 kids are sitting in an unfamiliar van. They must be scared out of their wits." The female teacher's face was really pale, and she couldn't care about anything else. At the same time, Shen Qingjiang, Wu Zhizhi, Kaixin Yuan, and all the boys and girls who came from the University of Rivertown were shocked by Yin Jian's actions just now. Some of them even realized that Yin Jian's actions were extremely cool. God, did you see that? That girl has a gun. Who is she? She's too cool. That gun is a SIGP 2106 Swiss pistol. I've only seen it on the newspaper. I didn't expect to see a real gun. This came from a boy who was shocked and admired Yin Jian's actions just now. I just watched a movie last week about female secret agents. It was exactly the same as what she did just now. So cool. Ah. If she was a boy, I would definitely fall in love with her every second. This came from a girl who was infatuated and shocked by Yin Jian's actions just now. The crowd was in an uproar. At this moment, Yin Jian had already arrived in front of the principal. She didn't look at the principal and walked out of the school gate in front of everyone. She shouted at the stunned principal, "You don't have a car here. Take me there." Yin Jian couldn't chase after the black van on foot. She couldn't fly, so it was naturally impossible. Hence, she had to find a car to chase after it. "We don't have cars or vans in Wuxian. We only have tractors. I'll borrow a tractor." The principal was having a headache. People in Wuxian couldn't even afford a motorcycle, let alone a car. How could someone from a poor mountainous area own a car? This was also the reason why the human traffickers were able to capture them so easily. As long as they dragged the kidnapped children into the car, even if they were discovered, the villagers who didn't have cars wouldn't be able to chase after them. No need. Yin Jian refused. It was impossible for the tractor to chase after the black van. "So, when are you going to stop showing off? You clearly know that there are no cars or vans in Wuxian. You're just afraid that you'll lose face if you chase after someone on a tractor, right? Who are you pretending to be the savior of the world for?" Even though Wu Zhizhi saw the scene just now, she quickly reacted at this moment, and continued to speak rudely to Yin Jian. Wu Zhizhi was probably the kind of person who wouldn't shed a tear until she saw the coffin. Yin Jian did not say anything. After 3 seconds of silence, a cool sports car drifted over from afar. Yin Jian had heard the sound of the sports car drifting when she said, "No need." Not long after the sports car drifted over from afar, several luxurious cars behind it sped over from the direction of Wuxian toward the city. They were from New Cruise, and the one leading the drifting sports car was Qingyu. "Open the top and chase after someone," Yin Jian ordered softly, ignoring Wu Zhizhi and the rest. Qingyu, who was sitting in the sports car, immediately opened the hood of her sports car, the sunroof of the sports car, and made a 360-degree turn in the open space at a frightening speed. This scene caused an uproar among the crowd. What shocked them even more was the moment the sports car opened its top and made a 360-degree turn at a shocking speed. However, he only saw a small and nimble figure running over there like a swallow. The owner of the small silhouette sprinted over 10 meters on the ground and leaped right into the sports car's seat the moment the sports car made a 360-degree turn. Just as the sports car made a turn, Yin Jian, who was in front of the crowd, was already in the car. The car stepped on the accelerator at a shocking speed and left the place immediately. Silence. Dead silence. It wasn't until 30 seconds later that someone said in a tone of disbelief and shock, "Oh my God!" She jumped into the sports car when it made a 360-degree turn. If she missed, she'd be killed. Is that girl really a secret agent or an assassin? I've never seen such a terrifying woman in my life. She's even a university student. She's F***king amazing. Chapter 2077. Yun Jian, who had hopped into Qingyu's sports car, sat in the passenger seat and was taken away from the place amidst the crowd's exclamations of shock, surprise, and fear. The scene just now caused everyone present to be unable to regain their senses for a long time. One had to know how terrifying it was. If Qingyu had missed, if Yun Jian had jumped in the wrong direction, or if Yun Jian had accidentally fallen to the ground, the sports car would have turned around and run over her directly. Would she still be alive then? However, from what they could see now, the series of thoughts were unrealistic. It was because Yun Jian and Qingyu's coordination just now could only be described as flawless. It was as if they had cooperated with each other thousands of times in that thrilling and terrifying move earlier. To them, it was a piece of cake. It was a tacit understanding that outsiders could not obtain even if they wanted it. Those who stood where they were, be it the principal or the female teachers, had forgotten that they had to call for help to save the child. The moment they saw Yun Jian getting into Qingyu's sports car and speeding away, the crowd had an illusion for a moment. It was as if, as long as Yun Jian was here, no matter how difficult it was, it would not be a problem. She. Wu Zhizhi, who was shocked by the series of events, could not react for a long time. What was going on? Why was Yun Jian so skilled? She was like a special forces soldier from the army. She was so cool. The people around them were exclaiming, "So cool. So cool. Oh my God." And so on to describe the shocking scene earlier. Wu Zhizhi's face turned paler when she heard that. "Although I don't know what happened, do you guys want to check it out together?" A middle-aged man in a suit and a pair of branded leather shoes alighted from a luxurious sedan. He was dressed like a big shot. This man was the current CEO of New Cruise, Zhang Jifan. Zhang Jifan had changed his appearance. He was wearing a branded suit and branded leather shoes. Even the way he walked gave off the vibe of a successful middle-aged man. However, this didn't mean that Zhang Jifan was being extravagant and acting like a big shot. Zhang Jifan was New Cruise's living signboard. He was different from Yun Jian, who was a hands-off boss. Since he wanted to run New Cruise on an international track, there was no way he was going to wear street goods to interact with international multinational companies. It would be strange if that person was willing to pay attention to him. Sometimes, wearing gold and silver from head to toe was a job requirement. Zhang Jifan was a living example. "I'll have to trouble you then." The principal hurriedly nodded. Everyone was eager to know what had happened, and whether the children were all right. Therefore, after listening to Zhang Jifan, they all got into the luxurious sports cars that Zhang Jifan had brought. Even Wu Zhizhi and Shen Qingjiang were no exception. Perhaps it was because Zhang Jifan had rarely shown his face on television. No one recognized Zhang Jifan when they got out of the car and went after Yun Jian and Qingyu in the luxurious cars. On the rugged mountain path, a black van was driving at the front. There were fields all around without any weeds or trees. Therefore, one could see clearly that a convertible sports car was chasing after the black van and was closing in on them. As the black van and convertible sports car passed by, the luxurious cars that could be seen from afar, but could still be seen driving into the curve. Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, Liang Xiumin, and Muyu followed them. Far away, Yun Jian, who was in the convertible sports car, growled at Qingyu, "Take the small path and flank it." Hearing that, Qingyu took the small path and went over a steep slope right in front of the people in the luxurious cars to close the distance between them and the black van. At the same time, Wu Zhizhi and the rest who were far away saw something that shocked them. Yun Jian, who was sitting in the convertible sports car, pulled out a pistol from her waist and raised it single-handedly without looking, shooting the 4 tires of the black van in front of them from different angles. After 4 shots, the tires of the black van burst and it was forced to stop. Yin Jian did a flip and leaped onto the ground without waiting for the convertible sports car to stop. Her hand that held the pistol lowered naturally as she approached the black van fearlessly. It was like the arrival of the Grim Reaper. Chapter 2078. It was as if Yin Jian had done the breathtaking action thousands of times without a hitch. The people who followed her from afar had an illusion for a moment. It was as if she was meant to live in a world filled with bloodshed. However, for some reason, she had come to the ordinary world they lived in. Just as they were thinking about it, a few limousines stopped a few dozen meters away from the black van and convertible sports car that were parked closely together. "Don't come over. I'll go take a look." The principal got out of the car and walked towards Yin Jian. He was worried that something would happen to the children. However, if there was any danger, he would bear it alone. "Principal, let me go." The female teacher held the principal back and gulped. Although she was afraid, she still wanted to walk over. "You guys stay here. I'll go." Zhang Jifan stopped her. As he spoke, he took off his blazer and tossed it to one of his men in the limousine. The man quickly caught the blazer that Zhang Jifan tossed to him. At the same time, Zhang Jifan was already walking towards the black van. Zhang Jifan had not only developed new crews well in the past few years, but he had also been improving his own abilities. Although he might not be able to defeat a high-level assassin, at least he would not cause trouble for Yin Jian, and could even help Yin Jian. At the same time, Yin Jian had already walked to about 10 meters away from the black van in front of everyone. She stopped and glanced at the black van from the corner of her eyes. "African leopard, I know you're in the van. Why don't you come out? Are all the assassins in Reverse Emperor like you? Cowardly? You're the 5th-ranked assassin in the International Assassin chart. Is that all you've got?" Yin Jian stared at the black van. Unknowingly, she had already put the gun back into the holster on her waist and squinted her eyes. The windows of the black van were covered with a layer of film, so the people inside could not be seen from the outside. Bam! Sure enough, as soon as Yin Jian finished speaking, the car door was opened, and a 2-meter-tall, burly middle-aged man got out of the car. After the burly middle-aged man got out of the car, he looked at Yin Jian. His right hand behind his back was dragging a big hammer. He held the big hammer and dragged it to the ground as he walked towards Yin Jian. This burly middle-aged man was African Leopard, ranked 5th on the International Assassin rankings. Although he was 2 meters tall and was a heavyweight, the speed of the African Leopard was like that of a real cheetah, fast and agile. He was strong and fast. Even if it was the assassin or secret agent ranking, the assassins or secret agents who were ranked above the African Leopard would have to be 100% vigilant against him, because the slightest carelessness could lead to instant death. "Little girl." The African Leopard glanced at Yin Jian. Obviously, he did not recognize Yin Jian's identity, although he despised Yin Jian for being a little girl in his heart. However, it could be seen from the way Yin Jian stopped their black van just now. This little girl was not weak at all. F***ck, kill her. The African Leopard's eyes darkened as he ordered the men who came out of the van. Hearing that, the men took out their weapons. Wu Zhizhi and the rest who saw this scene were pale with fright. At the same time, Yin Jian stared at the men. The next sentence that came out of her mouth shocked Wu Zhizhi and the rest of the men. Even African Leopard and the men who were standing beside him were shocked. The 8th on the International Assassin rankings, Slaying Dragon. The 15th on the International Assassin rankings, Xing Tian. The 29th on the International Assassin rankings, Long Yi. The International 3S Wanted Criminal, retired sharpshooter from Country X, Flying Lion. Heh, the Reverse Emperor organization is really willing to pay any price to get rid of me. But it's a pity that you elites will die here. Chapter 2079. Something unacceptable was happening on the road from Bianwu town to the city. At the same time, in Yi Ling's house. Lin Wei really treated Yi Ling's house as his own. After a year, Lin Wei moved into Yi Ling's house openly. Other than returning to an Hun organization to deal with internal affairs, Lin Wei went to Yi Ling's house to eat and drink. He even asked to sleep with Yiling. Yiling's mother, Ji Qinqin, and father Yi Datong didn't dare to disobey Lin Wei. Ji Qinqin and Yi Datong heard from Yiling that Lin Wei was the second in command of a gang and was very powerful. Ji Qinqin and Yi Datong didn't dare to disobey Lin Wei because they were afraid that Lin Wei would take their daughter away again. Their daughter had been missing for more than 10 years. To Ji Qinqin and Yi Datong, it was fine as long as Yiling was fine. Therefore, Lin Wei also openly slept in the same room as Yiling in front of her parents. In fact, Ji Qinqin already thought that Lin Wei had taken advantage of her daughter. Now that Lin Wei wasn't in Yiling's house, Ji Qinqin called Yiling to her room. "Mom, why did you call me here?" Yiling didn't know why Ji Qinqin called her here. "Lingling, did you do that with him?" Ji Qinqin was too embarrassed to ask at first. "What do you mean?" Yiling frowned slightly. Her sky blue eyes were very beautiful. Did he wear a condom when you did it?" Ji Qinqin was experienced too. She didn't beat around the bush and asked directly. Yiling didn't know what Ji Qinqin was talking about before. Now that she heard Ji Qinqin's words, she understood. "Mom." Yiling's face turned red instantly. Okay. Mom knows. Lingling, it's been hard on you this year. Mom and Dad are useless. If we were more capable, we wouldn't let you suffer like this. Lingling, I'm sorry for doing this with someone I don't like. Ji Qinqin said, and tears fell down. She felt sorry for her daughter. Her daughter was already back home, but she couldn't stop Lin Wei from doing that to Yiling. She didn't dare to say anything. After all, Lin Wei was a gang member. "Mom, there was no such thing." Yiling shook her head. "No, Lingling, listen to Mom. Mom and Dad have discussed it. We'll definitely help you escape from that man. That man won't come today. Hurry up and run. Mom and Dad are here. Even if that man kills you, Mom and Dad won't let you sell your body again." As Ji Qinqin spoke, she took out a bank card from her room and handed it to Yiling with trembling hands. "Lingling, this is all our savings. Take it and run. Run as far as you can." Yiling shook her head when she realized that her mother had misunderstood her. She wanted to stuff the bank card back into Ji Qinqin's hands. "Mom, no, take it. Let's go now." Ji Qinqin seemed to have made up her mind. Without giving Yiling a chance to speak, she shoved the bank card into Yiling's hand and pushed her out. Who would have thought that as soon as he opened the door, he would see Lin Wei standing indifferently at the door? Ji Qinqin was shocked. Yiling's heart skipped a beat. "Where are you going?" Just as Yiling's heart skipped a beat, Lin Wei's pleasant and magnetic voice rang out. There was a trace of coldness in his voice that had never been there before. He was angry. Yiling's heart unconsciously panicked. "No, I'm not leaving." Yiling wanted to explain, but Lin Wei grabbed her wrist and dragged her to her room in front of Ji Qinqin. He locked the door. After entering the room, Lin Wei threw Yiling onto the bed and began to undress. "Did I give you too much time to accept me? So you want to run away? They say that women know their place when they're pregnant. Then I won't be polite." As he spoke, Lin Wei unbuckled his belt and unzipped her underwear. Chapter 2080. Ouch. 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 Yiling was still in a daze when Lin Wei completely penetrated her. How did this happen? Wasn't everything fine just now? She thought it was just her mother, Ji Qinqin, who wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with her. How did it turn out like this? Yiling couldn't describe how she felt. If she didn't want to accept Lin Wei, she would have started to struggle. But Yiling didn't struggle. So when her underwear was pulled open, Yiling was completely turned into Lin Wei's woman before she could react. Maybe she already liked him. After Lin Wei violently penetrated her, Yiling reached out her hands and wrapped them around Lin Wei's neck. She buried her head in his shoulders. Her legs wrapped around his waist. "Softer," she said softly like a kitten. Even her earlobes were flushed. Didn't she want to escape? Escape from his world. So Lin Wei crudely penetrated her. But now she didn't make a fuss. Instead, she cooperated with him. What was going on? Desire overshadowed his rational mind. "Lin Wei, who had tasted something new for the first time in over 20 years, didn't hesitate anymore and continued to move. Ji Qinchin, who was outside the room, heard that her precious daughter was being forced again. She hid in her room and cried. Ji Qinchin would never have thought that she was the cause of all this. At the same time, on the rugged mountain path from Wuxia to the city, Yin Jian's words carried a certain aura and entered everyone's ears. Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and the others who were standing in the distance all widened their eyes when they heard Yin Jian's words. The first four were all international assassins, and one was a retired sharpshooter from Country X. Are these all international bigwigs? Why would such terrifying people appear here? Mu Xiaoxiao's eyes widened when he heard this and asked. Mu Xiaoxiao obviously knew about these things. After hearing this, his face changed drastically. What international bigwigs? Just because she said so, it's just because she said so? Wu Zhizhi saw that the people in front of her, led by African Leopard, had taken out unusual weapons. She didn't want to admit the truth. She stuttered and shouted again. But before Wu Zhizhi could finish her sentence, everyone saw that African Leopard and the other four were also shocked after hearing Yin Jian's words. An ordinary little girl naturally wouldn't be able to recognize them at a glance. Moreover, Yin Jian had only glanced at them once, and she had already exposed their backgrounds. Who was she? How do you know our identities so well? The African Leopard glared at Yin Jian and asked. African Leopard's words directly confirmed their identities. Wu Zhizhi's words just now made her look like a clown, and her face turned even uglier. There's nothing that I don't know about internationally. In front of them, Yin Jian didn't hide her smile. You, who are you? At this moment, the African Leopard had no choice but to pay attention to Yin Jian. He had to pay attention to this little girl who they did not pay attention to in the beginning. Big brother, don't waste time on this little girl. Let's quickly bring them back to the organization and report to the boss. No matter who she is, even if she's one of the top 3 figures in the international assassin ranking, she won't be able to escape if the 5 of us work together. Long Yi, who was ranked 29th in the international assassin ranking, stood beside African Leopard and said to him while wiping his nose. 5 top international assassins against 1 Yin Jian. As long as she wasn't the international legend that made people tremble in fear, she was definitely no match for them. Is that so? Hearing Long Yi's words, Yin Jian's red arc grew deeper in front of Wu Zhizhi and the others. 5 against 1 is it? Do you know anything about the Blood Night incident? Yin Jian continued. Blood Night incident. Hearing Yin Jian's words, the 5 people led by African Leopard were stunned. Of course they knew. Who in the underworld didn't know about the Blood Night incident? The Blood Night incident was the reason why Slaying God, who was ranked first in the international secret agent ranking, became famous. Back then, Slaying God's rise had shocked the world. The top 10 assassins in the international assassin ranking, including the top 10 secret agents in the international secret agent ranking, had joined forces to besiege and kill Slaying God. However, in the end, the top 20 secret agents in the international secret agent assassin world were massacred by Slaying God with her bare hands on that night. She went up against the top 20 secret agents in the international secret agent assassin circle alone. Slaying God won. That was the Blood Night incident. The Blood Night incident back then had shocked the world. Since the top 10 secret agents in the international secret agent and assassin ranking were all dead, it was only natural that other secret agents and assassins would replace them. However, anyone in the circle would see Slaying God as someone they would rather commit suicide than provoke. The Blood Night incident back then was a result of Slaying God taking on more than one person. Now that this little girl mentioned it, what was the meaning behind it? African Leopard and the other 4 panicked for no reason. However, they did not have time to think further. Yin Jian had already smoothed out the red arc on her forehead in front of everyone. Her indifferent side profile was facing African Leopard and the other 4. Her cold voice was like a reenactment of the Blood Night incident, spreading to everyone's hearts and stirring up a wave of fear. It's been 3 years since the Blood Night incident. This is the first time the top assassins have joined forces to attack me again. So are you ready to die? Chapter 2081. During the Bloody Night incident, the top 20 assassins on the International Assassin and Secret Agent Leaderboard had joined forces to go against Slaying God, who was not ranked first on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard. It was because Slaying God was too powerful and would pose a threat to them sooner or later. African Leopard and the rest were well aware of that. The 5 of them combined could not be compared to the top 20 assassins on the International Assassin Leaderboard. However, what did Yunjian mean by that? It's been 3 years since the Bloody Night incident. This is the first time the assassins on the leaderboard have joined forces to attack me again? Did Yunjian mean that there were assassins on the leaderboard who had joined forces to attack her before? Furthermore, Yunjian had mentioned the Bloody Night incident. Based on this comparison, could she be the one who had fought the top 20 assassins on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard during the Bloody Night incident? She rose to fame in one battle, causing an uproar in the international circle. Countless business tycoons were terrified when they heard her name. The top assassin on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard, Slaying God. Are you Faye? Are you S from the Bloody Night incident? Before he could finish the word kill, a voice rang out. You can die now. Everyone heard a flat voice that they could not tell if it was happy or sad. Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and the rest could only see the flash of a knife from afar. They could not even see when Yunjian had attacked. Long Yi, who had wanted to reveal Yunjian's identity in his panic, had his throat slit by Yunjian's flying knife. Long Yi was the 29th assassin on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard. He was also the weakest among the 5. Frightened by Yunjian's skills, the remaining 4, including African Leopard, did not dare to reveal the codename that sent chills down their spines just thinking about it. Long Yi's death did not shock African Leopard and the rest. In their world, the death of a person was a common occurrence. Even if someone who had been with them had died in front of them, African Leopard and the rest would not be too shocked. Wu Zhizhi, on the other hand, was so shocked that she covered her mouth and screamed, "Ah! Ah! Dead. Someone's dead. Yunjian killed someone." Wu Zhizhi's shouting and wrangling immediately attracted the attention of African Leopard and the others. Seeing this, Shen Qingjiang, who had a close relationship with Wu Zhizhi, slapped Wu Zhizhi in front of everyone. "Are you trying to get us killed?" When Wu Zhizhi saw that her beloved Shen Qingjiang had slapped her in front of everyone, she covered her cheek with her hand and wanted to cry. "It's just a clown. Now it's time to settle our score." Yunjian sneered when she saw African Leopard and the others looking at Wu Zhizhi. It was not to save Wu Zhizhi. Yunjian had always been clear about kindness and hatred. Even if African Leopard and the others killed Wu Zhizhi in public, it had nothing to do with her. She just didn't want to waste time. What debt? After African Leopard and the others guessed Yunjian's identity, they were so scared that their faces darkened. At this moment, the tone of his voice was trembling with fear. "Reverse Emperor, why did they send you here?" Yunjian asked. There was no answer to his question. "You're not going to tell me, are you?" Yunjian took out 2 butterfly knives from both sides of her thighs and twirled them in her palms as she walked toward African Leopard and the others. With the butterfly knives, African Leopard and the others were even more certain of Yunjian's identity. At this moment, the 4 of them were so scared that their expressions changed drastically. "Let the children go first." Just when African Leopard and the others were about to fight to the death, Yunjian suddenly put away the butterfly knives and said with her arms crossed, "In the face of Slaying God, even if they had hostages, they would not be able to survive." African Leopard and the others knew that very well. They won't take the children as hostages, right? The female teacher from afar asked fearfully. The crowd was nervous as well. However, before they could get nervous, African Leopard and the others had already obediently released the 5 kidnapped children. They released the children so quickly that it was as if they were afraid that they would be killed by Yunjian, who was scarier than a river beast if they were too late. Seeing that, Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, the principal, the female teacher, Liang Xiumin, Mu Yu, and the rest were bewildered. Who was this Yunjian? Why did African Leopard and the others, who were so intimidating earlier, act like obedient dogs now? They would do whatever Yunjian told them to do? Chapter 2082. The kidnapped children were obviously frightened. Zhang Jifan walked over to take the children back one by one, and handed them to the female teacher and the principal. The female teacher rubbed the children's heads. She was obviously scared out of her wits. However, the female teacher was a smart person. She knew that such a scene was not suitable for the children to continue staying. She was afraid that the children would be psychologically distorted after seeing the bloody scene. Therefore, the female teacher touched a child's head and quickly turned to look at Zhang Jifan. She said, "Can you please send someone to send the 5 children back to our town first?" Okay. Zhang Jifan immediately understood when he heard this. He immediately nodded and responded. Then he turned around and said to one of his men who was driving the limousine, "Xiao Yuan, send these children back to the town we just went to, and then come back to pick us up." The driver, who Zhang Jifan called Xiao Yuan, nodded after hearing this. After watching the 5 children get into the car and drive away, the female teacher breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what happened next, now that the children had left, it was easy to say, "We let them go. You should let us go too." African Leopard, who was not far away, continued to speak to Yun Jian after the 5 children left. Let them go? Just now, the 5 children were in the hands of African Leopard and his group. According to the bad guy's setting, shouldn't he take the 5 children as hostages to threaten Yun Jian and everyone present? Moreover, the people led by African Leopard were killers on the international killer list. All of them had high statuses. But why didn't they take the 5 children as hostages? Instead, they listened to Yun Jian and let them go obediently. That was fine. But one of the 5 was dead. For men actually begged Yun Jian to let them go? Wu Zhizhi, Kai Xingyuan, Shen Qingjiang, and the others who were standing in the distance were already in an uproar. Yun Jian was the same as them. They were all ordinary college students. Not to mention that Yun Jian was facing a few top killers from the world this time. Even if they encountered ordinary kidnappers, they would be so scared that they would squat on the ground with their heads in their hands and pee their pants in terror. Why did it turn upside down in Yun Jian's hands? It was actually these top assassins from the world. Beg Yun Jian to forgive them? What did she mean by the bloody night incident? At this moment, Mu Yu, who was good at thinking about the details, muttered to herself, "I've never heard of it." Liang Xiumin heard Mu Yao's muttering and took the opportunity to reply. How could anyone present know about the bloody night incident? However, if they were to ask their father, who was a businessman, they would probably be able to find out what exactly the famous bloody night incident was. At that moment, Yun Jian didn't give the surrounding people a chance to continue talking. She turned her body around to face African Leopard and the other 3. Her cold and indifferent face made African Leopard and the other 3 slightly flustered. "Let you go? If you don't tell me why Reverse Emperor sent you here today, do you think you can leave this place alive?" Yun Jian glanced at the 4 men, as if she was looking at 4 corpses. There was a strange luster in his eyes, as if he was a king who ruled over life and death. African Leopard and the other 3 men shuddered. "Looks like you guys are planning to keep your mouths shut." Yun Jian's eyes flickered. As she spoke, a half-smile appeared on her face, and she extended a hand to Qingyu. "You take out your newly developed poison. There are ready-made white mice here for you to test the efficacy of your newly developed poison for free." Yes. Qingyu took out the poison in front of everyone after listening to Yun Jian. It was a small bottle of liquid solvent. However, when African Leopard and the other 3 heard how Yun Jian addressed Qingyu, their eyes widened in front of Wu Zhizhi and the rest who were far away. In the next second, the 4 men, led by African Leopard, took a few more glances at Qingyu and exclaimed in fear, "Are you the world's top poison expert, Lady Poison?" Chapter 2083. If Slaying God. The number 1 on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard was a character that struck fear in African Leopard and the rest. However, African Leopard and the rest had never thought that they would meet someone like Slaying God. After all, Slaying God's mystery was no secret in the circle. Qingyu, the Wicked Lady, who followed slaying God, was closer to the truth than slaying God. Unlike slaying God, no one knew who she really looked like. Not only was Qingyu Yunjian's subordinate, but slaying God would always get Qingyu to do whatever she wanted. Hence, when people heard Qingyu's name internationally, it was as if they had seen slaying God in person, causing them to break out in cold sweat. Moreover, Qingyu was the world's #1 poison expert. Even if you walked a dozen meters away from her, she would still be able to poison you silently. Even if you died on the spot, no one would be able to find out the cause of death. Therefore, other than slaying God, Qingyu, the Wicked Lady, was the last person the assassins on the leaderboard wanted to meet. Now, the two terrifying characters that the international assassins and secret agents did not want to meet the most were right in front of them. African Leopard and the other three's expressions could not be described with just one word. It was the fear of impending death. Slaying God alone was enough to kill them. Now there was the world's #1 poison expert. Will you let us go if we tell you? African Leopard asked Yunjian. Yunjian nodded. Big brother, if we tell you, I'm afraid we won't be able to return to Reverse Emperor. Annihilation Dragon, the #8 assassin on the leaderboard, said to African Leopard after hearing what Yunjian said. It's still better than dying. Reverse Emperor wasn't our home to begin with. Boss only hired us to join Reverse Emperor 2 years ago. Moreover, Boss has assigned us to carry out all kinds of dangerous missions for the past 2 years. Boss must have known that we'd meet them today. Since Boss isn't giving us a way out, why should we stay with Reverse Emperor? Where there's life, there's hope. Reverse Emperor was unkind to us, so why should we be kind to them? African Leopard said, clenching his fists. After that, the African Leopard seemed to have made up his mind to confess to Yunjian. Let's talk over there. Yunjian waved her hand and walked towards the track in the distance. When African Leopard and the other three saw this, they also followed. Yunjian didn't stop until she was sure that Wu Zhizhi and the others couldn't hear her. You can speak now. Hearing this, African Leopard did not play any tricks. He spoke bluntly and told him everything he knew. Chi. It wasn't until African Leopard and the other three left with Long Yi's corpse in the black van that Wu Zhizhi and the others recovered from their daze. After he left, Wu Zhizhi, Shen Qingjiang, and Kai Xingyuan finally dared to walk over from afar. Liang Xiumin and Mu Xiao also followed. How dare you kill someone just now? Wu Zhizhi shouted at Yunjian as soon as she walked over. This irrational behavior was very consistent with her identity as a rich family's young miss. Mu Xiao, on the other hand, wisely chose to hold Liang Xiumin without saying anything or asking anything. The principal, the female teacher, and those who came with them wisely chose to ignore the series of events that happened just now. Yunjian ignored Wu Zhizhi while Qingyu looked at the black van. It was only when it disappeared from everyone's sight that Qingyu asked Yunjian, Sister Jian, do you need me to go after them and kill them? Kill them after letting them go? Wu Zhizhi was about to say that Yunjian was ignoring her when she heard Qingyu's question, and shut her mouth in fright. Yunjian, who stood beside the group, narrowed her eyes. Just when everyone thought that Yunjian was going to keep quiet, her nonchalant voice rang with unprecedented confidence and ambition. There's no need for that. It won't be long before Reverse Emperor, including them, becomes my subordinates. Chapter 2084. Yunjian had always been a woman of her words. Qingyu knew this very well. Qingyu nodded. Didn't you say that Reverse Emperor is an assassin organization? You want to take over the assassin organization and their assassins? Yunjian, what do you do for a living? Wu Zhizhi was so dumb that she could not keep her words to herself. Liang Xiumin and Wu Zhizhi were both young ladies, but Liang Xiumin was smarter than Wu Zhizhi and knew what to ask and what not to ask. Wu Zhizhi, on the other hand, never knew what to ask and what not to ask. Or maybe it was curiosity that took over, causing Wu Zhizhi to ask directly whenever she wanted to know the answer. By then, Yunjian had already turned and made her way to Qingyu's convertible sports car. Just as she was about to walk toward Qingyu's convertible sports car, she heard Wu Zhizhi's dumb question. Yin Jian's lips curled upward when she heard that. Do you know why I killed that person just now? However, what Yin Jian said surprised everyone present. Wu Zhizhi still did not understand after some thought, but she was a little afraid of Yin Jian's gaze. Therefore, the words that came out of Wu Zhizhi's mouth were laced with coldness. Why? Because he's as talkative as you are. Yin Jian suddenly reached out and slashed Wu Zhizhi's neck. Before the crowd could react, they saw the gleam of a knife in Yin Jian's hand. Wu Zhizhi was stunned as well. When she came back to her senses, the gleam of the knife had already slashed her neck. No. I don't want to die. There was a swoosh. When the crowd reacted, they saw Yin Jian cutting off a large chunk of Wu Zhizhi's hair that fell over her shoulders with the butterfly knife. That sound was the soft and crisp sound of a strand of hair being cut. Wu Zhizhi breathed out in relief. She was scared out of her wits. By the time Wu Zhizhi came back to her senses, Yin Jian had already walked to the convertible sports car. The moment before she sat in the convertible sports car, she turned around and looked at Wu Zhizhi with a red smile. I don't think anyone has ever told you that nosy people like you die the quickest. Without waiting for Wu Zhizhi's response, Yin Jian held the car door with one hand and jumped into the driver's seat through the sunroof of the convertible sports car. Qing Yu hopped into the passenger seat of the convertible sports car as well. In Yin Jian's hands, the convertible sports car drew a straight line and disappeared in the blink of an eye like a shooting star. Yi Ling's house. Yi Ling's boudoir was filled with the scent of a man and a woman after making love. Yi Ling was tormented by Lin Wei and took a nap. Now that she woke up, she suddenly realized that she had been tortured by him. Yi Ling almost jumped up from the bed and then turned over. At this moment, she was naked and fell directly to the ground. The numbness in her thighs made Yi Ling prop herself up, but she could not stand properly. However, just as Yi Ling accidentally fell to the ground, a large hand reached out from the bed to grab her hand and pulled her back onto the bed. Trying to escape? Lin Wei's cold voice rang. It was still the same simple and crude word. Having known Lin Wei for so long, Yi Ling could tell that he would not say much to her when he was angry. Actually, Lin Wei was used to being a man of few words. He was like that to everyone except for her. However, once Lin Wei was angry, he would speak to her in the same tone he spoke to everyone else. Didn't I? Yi Ling's eyes darted around as she tried to explain. Lin Wei did not listen to Yi Ling as he lay on top of her. Open the door. Open the door. Don't blame Ling Ling. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Please let my daughter go. Come at me if you want to kill me. Don't hurt Ling Ling. Outside the door, Yi Ling's mother, Ji Qinqin's voice of despair came. Just as Ji Qinqin finished her words, her daughter's moan of being violated echoed in the house. No, don't do this. Lin Wei penetrated Yi Ling again with only a door between them right in front of her mother. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.